Good morning and welcome to the Executive Finance and Corporate Standing Committee meeting for the 15th of September 2021. Welcome to councillors and staff. I'd now like to call the meeting open at 9:02 a.m. We have a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Fryloff, who is unwell today. Do we have a mover for such? Councillor Jones, seconded Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Before we move on to the recognition of traditional owners, I would like to pass on our most sincere condolences to the people of Cherbourg and Mergen this morning on the passing of Bevan Costello tragically and unexpectedly last evening. Bevan has been a tremendous contributor. In fact, he's been at the heart and soul of those communities since, for his 60-odd years of life, and we're terribly saddened to hear of his passing this morning. And our thoughts and prayers are very much with our colleagues at the Cherbourg Council. Of course, Cherbourg's Bevan's son, Leighton, of course, is one of the councillors. And our thoughts and prayers are very much with the entire community out there as they are going through what is very upsetting, sorry business for them today. So on behalf of our council, I'd like to pass on our thoughts and prayers to our wonderful friends and colleagues at Cherbourg this morning. With that, I would like to now call on Councillor Duff to perform the recognition of our traditional owners. Thank you, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge country and the traditional owners of the land where we meet this morning, the Waka Waka people, and acknowledge the elders, both past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge Elder Bevan Costello and the passing. The sad news this morning. Bevan was absolutely respected and loved in the community, and he was so passionate. Only last week he led the Are You OK Day with the whole community behind him, right around the whole town of Cherbourg. It was just emotional to see him, his passion about the Are You OK and to stop suicide. And then at the footy, to compare the footy, and then to have the Cherbourg Hornets beat the Mergen Mustangs. It was just amazing. And he had an amazing life. He had an amazing following, and the respect that he had for his community was unequalled. So I'd just like us to pray this morning for Bevan, for his family, for the whole community of Cherbourg who have lost absolutely loved and respected elder. They've been doing it tough, and hopefully let's pray that Bevan's legacy of stopping the end of suicide, the passion that he had against the problems with mental health and to try and fix the issues of Cherbourg. Let's hope that his passing leaves that legacy that we can end, it can be the end of the suicide that's happening in Cherbourg. Let's pray that it lifts up the spirit of Cherbourg and the community to have hope and a sense of purpose, Lord. We pray for Bevan, we pray for his family, we pray for the whole community that you give them hope, a sense of purpose and a sense of pride in the legacy that Bevan has left behind. We ask this in Jesus' precious name. Amen. And I'd like you all to be upstanding, and so that we can observe a minute's silence for our loved and dear Bevan Costello. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. Councillors, we have on the agenda a number of items which we've all had an opportunity to review. Is there any disclosures in relation to declarable or prescribed conflicts of interest at this point in time? If not, we'll move on to item 5.1 at page 6, which is the minutes of the previous committee meeting held on the 18th of August 2021. As presented, do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, seconder Councillor Jones. Any questions in relation to the contents of the minutes? Matters to raise? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, let's move on to 7.1 23, which is the Corporate Services, People and Culture, Communications and Media, and Finance and ICT Portfolio Report. And I'll now be pleased to present such. First of all, with Corporate Services, International Access to Information Day 2021 is on the 28th of this month, and Council will celebrate International Access to Information Day, and for the month of September. We're an official partner of the Office of the Information Commissioner of Queensland. This year's theme of Open by Design, Government Transparency, Everyone Can See, promotes the value of proactively releasing information in times of crisis and recovery. As individuals, we've all seen the benefits that timely access to accurate and relevant information brings, particularly during a crisis. It helps us to stay informed of the situation, provides us with ways to stay safe or help out, and empowers us to make decisions about matters affecting us. Proactively releasing information also helps to build greater trust between government and the community, and in turn aids faster recovery. Continual local government openness, transparency and accountability is fundamental to this process. International Access to Information Day raises awareness of every individual's right of access to government-held information and our Council responsibility to release information if it is in the public interest to do so. During this month, Council will actively promote internally the responsibilities of Council staff and deliver targeted messaging with theme displays across our customer service centres. Council is joining individuals and governments from around the world who support this fundamental human right, promoting open, democratic societies where citizens are empowered and participate in government. Communications and Media. In August, the Media and Communications team progressed 26 media releases, 13 media inquiries, 67 Facebook posts, 13 LinkedIn posts and 47 Instagram posts, 1 e-news item, 6 printed advertisements and 28 graphic design documents. A list of all media release inquiries and statistics for August is available as an attachment to this report. On to Finance. And Finance have been busy finalising the draft financial statements with auditors being on site for 2 weeks, starting from the 30th of September. At present, the net operating result for the 2021 year has landed at a deficit of $1.153 million compared to the fourth quarter forecast of $3.208 million. To the organisation of the South Bennett Regional Council, well done. Approximately $1.466 million of the $2.055 million favourable variance has come from recurrent revenue and is made up of $498,000 from additional RPC and RMPC claims, $325,000 in additional operational grant income caused by variances in movements for contract assets and liabilities and additional grants received, $445,000 from other income, partially made up of $77,000 in extra scrap steel sales, $259,000 from unused state waste levy income, and $69,000 in wild dog syndicate income, $198,000 in additional fees and charges revenue, partially made up of waste facilities income, $71,000, cattle dips, $18,000, building and developer applications, $20,000, overgrown allotment charges, $18,000, and additional water sales of $18,000. Reductions in recurrent expenditure have attributed $588,000 of the favourable year-end variance, and are made up of finance cost reductions of $370,000, largely due to year-end adjustments for the landfill, and quarry provisions of $345,000. Materials and provisions, $236,000, reductions in electricity charges of $79,000, water consumption charges of $101,000. Depreciation and amortisation, a saving of $106,000, and employee benefits, a saving of $123,000. August 2021 figures are currently being prepared for the next council meeting. At the end of August, council had cash and cash equivalents of $42.622 million, with $34.553 million of this balance sitting with QTC. And can I again acknowledge the work of council and the work of Mr. CEO, Madam General Manager, in fact, all of our general managers, senior executive team, and the entire organisation for landing us with a $1.153 million deficit. What a tremendous result, considering where we started at the beginning of that year. The rates team were busy during August preparing approximately 17,500 rates notices, which were dispatched on the 19th of August for the rates levy 6-monthly period from 1 July 21 to 31 December 21. The discount period end date for this levy is Wednesday, the 22nd of September 2021. Some highlights for the month and statistics for work received by the team so far this year are: rate searches have continued a steady climb this year, with a total completed of 408 received from July 21 to the 6th of September. Transfers of property ownership received 488 since 1 July 2021. A total of 1,032 tasks, being requests, have been received by the rates team since the 1st of July 21 and up to the 6th of September 21. Of these, the main summary breakdown is 650 for change of address, 206 inquiries for levies or inquiries relating to their charges, 129 were from pensioners, including new applications, and 46 were for payment arrangements on overdue accounts. Continued efforts and work by the rates team has been undertaken for debt recovery in preparation of scheduled reminders and demand processes leading up to our discount date. ICT, Project T2. Good progress continues to be made in the analysis phase for Council's Custom Request Project. It has been identified that Council receives and manages over 250 types of requests from our customers. Requirements and processes behind each of these request types is being scoped in preparation for the software implementation of a new customer request platform in early 2022. Upwards of 80 topical fact sheets have been identified for more immediate development, which will enhance the timely and consistent provision of information to council customers. Development of these fact sheets has commenced. And again, I'd like to acknowledge the work being done, Madam General Manager and Mr. CEO, by our ICT team, and a very important project for our regional community. With that, I'd like to now move that my corporate services, people and culture, communications and media, finance and ICT portfolio report be received. Thank you. And do we have a... Councillor Jones, thank you. Councillors, any questions in relation to the report? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank you for the update in terms of the closing out of the end of financial year with a remarkable difference in comparison to what we had expected. I just wanted to back up your statements in terms of, just how much work has gone into that process, and really do appreciate everyone who's committed to finding the savings and really running a lean operation as best as we can. I think by all means, I know over these past 18 months, the team has made a number of compromises, and we've had some very difficult conversations, and no doubt they will continue. But it's just wonderful to see everybody working together on the same page with a real commitment to our council and our community. So I just wanted to say thank you and acknowledge how much work has gotten us to this point. And by all means, I look forward to when the next round of budget workshops and discussions begin, because I'm also equally as mindful how important it is we keep our finger on the pulse. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Mr CEO, General Manager, would you like to add some commentary to that? Certainly a favourable result. Madam
Thank you.
General
Through
Manager,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. I appreciate all your kind comments. Thank you very much. And as you have stated, there's been a lot of work and dedication that has gone into that result, but it is a whole of an organisation result that I just appreciate all the support from the general managers, the managers and the staff particularly, because everybody has sharpened their pens and they've looked for efficiencies, and it's an outstanding result. It's still in draft at the moment. We have the auditors on site as we speak here for 2 weeks, but after they confirm that everything is right, I'm very proud to present those financial statements to Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillors. General Manager, I can only reiterate what's been said. It is going back to first principles. Council sets the strategic direction and policy of what it wants to achieve, and then we try and bring the organisation as best we can in to achieve those results. And Council set, I think very early in the term, we spoke, and Council, the best thing Council can do is set a very clear direction as to what it wants to achieve. And then my analogy of turning the Queen Mary, sometimes it takes us a little while, but every best effort is made to deliver that. Sometimes we get there, sometimes we don't. The organisation has responded magnificently to Council's challenge as far as this space. There's lumps and bumps, and we'll have waves into the future without bringing the dreaded COVID into it. Next year's results with the economic stimulus, with a whole range of things, you'll just, each year is a year as we come. But I said to the management group yesterday that this is kind of like watching Australia play a rugby union game. I don't get too cocky until the final siren goes, because they can lose it in the last minute or get flogged by half time. But anyway, we're almost over the line, and when that final siren goes, I'm very, very proud, and I just would thank the councillors for working with us, and we look forward to partnering with you going forward to continue to provide these sorts of results.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr CEO. And I suppose it is important to just note before we wrap up that it has very much been a team effort, that Council plays its role in setting the strategic direction. I'm very proud that this Council embraces the challenging task of not turning a blind eye to the tough calls that we have to make. So, you know, we have some conflicts at times in this chamber. We have some not heated, but we have some robust debates. I think that's good democracy, you know, and I think these results can be attributed to the fact that this council has been prepared to cross those bridges and take on those tough conversations we've had. Our staff and then have very appropriately and you know, graciously responded to what we've asked them to do. In serving the organisation and indeed the community. So it's been a wonderful team effort. And, you know, we've seen a lot in the media over the last 12 months about councils across Queensland complaining about the fact that it's very hard to be financially sustainable. And absolutely, they're entitled to do so. It's tough for councils with the number of responsibilities that we have in service delivery across the region for which we're not funded. Is certainly very challenging. But what I'm proud of is that this council hasn't passed the buck. We haven't shirked our responsibility to make sure that, yes, we will advocate to government as and when we have to on grants and on funding programs. But alongside that, we never pass the buck. We're always prepared to face up to the challenge and see it as our responsibility to manage our finances, to balance our books, and to get the best outcome we can for the community. So congratulations, everybody, for doing the hard yards, and it's a wonderful example of what can be achieved. And I'm sure, as Councillor Schumacher's articulated, that we'll continue to do so. We've got a lot more work to do for the community. We know we're not there yet, but we have a lot more work to do in terms of getting us to a point where we can, at some stage, find ourselves into surplus, alongside making sure that we're making responsible decisions and managing our assets sustainably. So in wrapping up, quite simply, well done, everybody. Yeah, thank you. Was there any other further questions or comments on the report before we wrap up? So we'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay,
Mr Mayor, can I?
Mr. CEO, Councillor Jones. I'm getting lost.
Sorry to throw
Over to
in
you,
the
Councillor Jones. Thank you.
I would like to move a resolution from the floor. It pertains to the QE2 Park in Mergen, and I didn't know, I had a look through the agenda, and I thought this was the appropriate thing because it is a financial decision for council. I just wanted to move a motion that, first of all, do we have a design for the QE2 Park upgrade to take back to the community? Because I haven't seen one as yet. So do we have a design to go back to the community at this stage for community consultation?
Councillor Duff.
Thank you. There's a design done by just by the community, not by the staff. They've got a plan.
The community,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where I'm at, Mr Mayor. I'd like to see I'd like to move a motion that a design be constructed with the feedback that has been initially gained from the community by our staff to take back for community consultation, and that will fall in. The reason I'm doing this is because it will fall into line with everything else that we've had to do across the region to be fair and consistent for everyone. We took a design back to Blackbutt. We've getting a design to take to Cumbia, and I just want to make sure that we're fair and consistent across the region. We address every situation like this with community consultation. So I'd like to move a motion similar to the one that was Blackbutt on the 28th of April from our minutes, that we have a design drawn up by staff or some sort of a design constructed on current feedback that we have from the community to take back for community consultation, and the final design and scope come back to council for endorsement after that consultation, and that will keep it in line with with everything else that we've done across the region in trying to improve our town centres. So I'd be certainly guided by the CEO or something like that on the wording of that, Mr CEO, if that's possible.
Sorry, Mayor. Firstly, it needs to be the committee recommends to council, just to get that one in there. Do you want me to? That is, Linnell, if we go, that a design for QE2, that design for QE2 Park Mergen be circulated for feedback. If we go simple, that the design for QE2 Park be circulated for community consultation and report back to council. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, like to be fair to Mergen, everyone else has had a design constructed on the feedback that's come from the community and then taken back out with the council designing that plan to give the community of Mergen a fair to see what they've created so far. I don't know how you word that, Mr CEO.
That's all right. If we just go simple and then we can play with it because it'll go back to next week's meeting if we need to. The design for QE2 Park Mergen be circulated for community consultation and report back to council.
Yeah, so do we need to have something in there, Mr CEO, in regards to our staff with the current feedback that we have from the community to design a plan to go back rather than use the plan that's been constructed by the community group? And in fairness, that will make it in line with everything else that we've done. Everyone else has had plans designed by council on the feedback that they received prior to going back out to consultation.
Just before finalising your motion, we might go to General Manager O'May. Yep. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, I think if you just add in that the design be prepared for QE2 Park. The situation we had at Maidenwell community worked really well because they had their drawing like the Mergen community have and gave it to the staff. The staff went away and did polished it up and did a design that could go out for consultation and took it back to the community. So this is what we've interpreted from your drawings. So yeah, I think that just the design be prepared and we use the community's one as the basis for preparing. And it worked really well at the moment.
Certainly use a plan that community's already done, but the council certainly helped polish it up and really give it a professional look when we went back out to the community. And in fairness to Mergen's community, that will keep it in line with everything else that we've done across the region and all the community consultation that we'll have to do with Cumbia, that we'll have to do with Wandai Roundabout, all that sort of stuff, the Blackbutt, KTP, all that. It just puts it all in line and gives Mergen community the same opportunity to see a professional design done before we move forward. That's,
And we need to add in those things like where the infrastructure is and some, if
Yep.
there's requirements that the community wouldn't have access to, so, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Are you comfortable with the motion as presented?
the design be prepared for QE2 Park Mergen and be circulated for community consultation and report back to council for endorsement after consultation or something, and costings and all that. That'll all obviously be done through that process, Pete. Doesn't need to be mentioned.
I think that'd be part of our project management protocols. Yeah, comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think that,
Stage.
yeah. And it's just being fair to the Mergen community and just putting it in line with everything fair and consistent across the region, Mr Mayor. That's the reason behind this motion.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jones. Do we have a seconder? Yeah, Councillor Duff. Okay, very good. Councillor Jones, did you want to add any further in terms of speaking further to the motion? You're comfortable as it stands?
No, Mr Mayor, I think I've covered off just in the reasons why I just think it's fair to the community of Mergen, and it just puts it in line. We're just fair and consistent across the region and addressing every situation in our region consistently, yeah. So that's the reason why behind that. And I just like the money that's been spent in the Mergen CBD. I think we need to get this right and finish it off properly and give the community every opportunity right across. There's 2,500 people live in Mergen. Give them the opportunity, make sure there's enough consultation out there, enough opportunities. Wandai Roundabout alone is taking 6 or 7 community consultation days, and I think we get good results. So this is a community consultation that I support. This is what I think gets really good results for everybody across our region, and we start to get things right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I completely agree. I think the process is right. I think it's very important that we're actually scoping projects and actually assigning budgets and working to that budget. So I'm very mindful. I think this is a great process in terms of actually getting a design that council can have a look at and the community can have a look at. One of my probably concerns is that I did see in very early months of council some preliminary designs that council had done for footpaths and things through QE2 Park as part of the footpath refurbishment projects that happened. James Darcy actually presented them in this chamber with Aaron Kerr, and they were for footpaths and some colouring and different things. So I just wanted to understand, have those plans, they were for QE2 Park as part of the footpath. I'm surprised you all don't remember, but I do recall Aaron Kerr has done some work around the footpath construction, and I guess what I really hope to see through this process is that council works together. So as General Manager O'May has said, it's important to understand where the infrastructure is and the implications for that. So with this designing process, I'd like to see both the Parks and Gardens and the infrastructure team work together, because I do think there is some work that's already been done in this regard that shouldn't, council has put money and resources to that, so it should not be just sort of thrown to the side. It needs to be built up with that feedback from the community so that everybody gets a result. I think it's great. I look forward to the finishing piece of Mergen, which will be QE2 Park. But I'm very mindful that that space needs to be functional and needs to meet the needs of our community. So it's great to hear that events like the markets and things happen there. And I know through the Kingaroy Transformation Project how important community activation is for regional and rural communities like ours. So really need to be mindful of what kind of activities are happening in that space so we can design infrastructure that meets those needs. So I'm just thinking broadly around engaging with those market providers around power and MC kind of equipment. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there, and probably my only question to you, Councillor Jones, Councillor Duff, and certainly the Mayor, I know you've already had some conversations with different stakeholders in Mergen. What is your sort of proposed time frame for this? Because I know we are also assigning works for Queensland budget, project priorities in the pipeline, and I'm just a little bit, I know from our previous projects, every project that we have scoped and designed properly has come back with a budget change. So I'm just mindful of setting our team up for success. So what's the time frame for work like this, and operational resource needs. I understand our design team's actually under quite a bit of pressure at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Schumacher. First of all, General Managers O'May and Acting General Manager Brennan, I see you writing down some notes there. I take on board that request that the two departments collaborate in relation to the design concepts and pick up whatever work Manager Darcy has done to date. So if you could do that, that'd be much appreciated by Council. Thank you. Mr CEO, in relation to the budgeting and timeframes, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. The question, so QE2 Park, as it's proposed in the Works for Queensland, is spread over 2 financial years. So with the budget resolution and then just the recent workshop, which again, no decisions, but where we confirmed that they were promoting, we will now move forward at pace with the project management plan. The project management plan will confirm the timelines. So because it's a staged project over the 2 financial years, we're able to, and we actually, by accident rather than design, we had a representative of the Department of Local Government up yesterday talking about Works for Queensland. Can I give us another plug? The only council in the Wide Bay region that completed all of its LGGSP and Works for Queensland grant projects by the due dates. Only one. So, not nervousness, but my desire the other day just to confirm where we are. So we will now swing into full motion with the project management planning. And actually, to give comfort, I know General Manager Meehan has previously been communicating about this project with QE2 Park because it will be cross-departmental, and certainly depending on with further discussions about delivery of capital and organisational realignment, which later in the report, but I'll touch on it now, is one of the reasons that's recommended is that we have a workshop. There are some conversations about delivery of capital programming and how that's done. And I think we can align that to get greater efficiency and better bang for the buck. Not that that's a criticism, but I just think it's that stepped improvement that we can continue to step improvement and delivery of some of these projects. So long-winded answer, I'm sorry, Councillor, but yeah, project management plans now. We spoke to the departmental representative yesterday. We gave him an update on where we're at, and they're very comfortable with it. And so that planning is about to swing into full flight.
Thank you very much, Mr CEO. You comfortable with that response, Councillor Schumacher?
Yes, absolutely. I just want to ensure the appropriate planning, scoping and timeframes are allocated for a project like this so that we do succeed. We don't deliver a project that we don't end up in an instance where we're talking with community too late in the piece, where community is fully invested and in the outcome, and we can get on with the work that needs to be done and delivered within that 2-year period. Because certainly at the moment, while it's wonderful to sort of say we've got 2 years, I also completely understand and appreciate the challenges currently in the construction industry, the increasing material costs and the challenges to get contractors on the job site. So there's a lot of planning work that needs to happen to deliver a project like this effectively. The consultation is only just the beginning.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm very supportive of this motion. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for moving the motion. I think it's a fantastic way forward. I think it's going to happen as a matter of course, but hopefully you fast-track that we get the design done and we go out to broad community consultation. I agree with you. It's as big as the roundabout, if not bigger, and part of the issue will be the old trees. Some of those trees will have to be removed, and that's always going to be challenging for the community. So we need to take the community with us on the whole journey, and just wanted to thank you for helping to hopefully fast track that process and have the team work together to get a design for Mergen. And then, as you said, broad community consultation is at 100% imperative that we get that right, that we get the costings right, and that we deliver a project that the community is happy with. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Other councillors, Councillor Potter, Councillor Henson, you're comfortable at this stage before we go to Councillor Jones for wrapping up? Councillor Jones, you'd like to wrap that up? We'll go to the vote. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and take all the points on from Councillor Shoemaker and all that, but this actually sits part of it sits under my portfolio along with Councillor Duff, and I appreciate the comments in regards to the cross sections and all that. And probably hadn't shared it in the past, but I'm well aware of the cross consultation that's been going on with this design, and I think that Botanical is an example. We went down to the community. Botanical has designed a full comprehensive concept plan for what they propose down there. Maidenwell done the same. Mergen has already done that, so we have a very good base to build on. I have every bit of confidence in our staff. They have never failed yet, and I would say that they won't fail in the future because they are doing an exceptional job when they do this sort of stuff, taking on all community consultation and comments, and I can see this being a very successful outcome. We just need to get this community on board, give everybody the opportunity so that no one can come back and say we were never given an opportunity to contribute to the design of the QE2 Park, because the money that's been spent up there has made a significant difference to the township of Mergen and the entry points from coming in from the north, so we don't want to bugger it up now by not going back to the community and getting it right and giving our staff the full opportunity to make a great design that encompasses everything that's needed in the community. So fully support these guys and women. They do a wonderful job, and this is just falling into line with everything we've done across the region with any other designs that we've done with major upgrades throughout the town. So I think it's just being fair and consistent as we go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Councillor Jones. Okay, 7.2, Australia Day, change of location. Now that one is at page 30 on our agenda. Mr. CEO, would you lead this one? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. We had a request that came through with regards to Nanango has its 175-year anniversary. I'll go the easy way out in 2023, and they would appreciate having the Australia Day Awards to commence, which is a brilliant idea. And we did check, and we can actually swap over the Black Butt's turn and Nanango this next year without too much fuss. So the recommendation is as presented.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. I'll just summarise the recommendation there that the committee recommend to Council. The South Bennett Regional Council location for the Australia Day Awards ceremony to be held at Black Butt on Sunday afternoon, the 23rd of January 2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder Councillor Jones. Thank you. Speakers for or against? Councillor Jones, thank you.
Yeah, no, fully support this, Mr. Mayor, but I just want to make sure, is it an appropriate time, Mr. CEO, to lock in the venue? I know it's in Black Butt. We usually have it at the hall, but I think what I hear in the background, we may have temporary pre-booked the Black Butt Showgrounds for an option. Is that correct?
That I'm unaware of. If council confirms, we can bring that back next week as part of, because this will go to next week's meeting, so we can just confirm venues. So if there's a preferred venue, let us know. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, sure, Councillor Jones. Having said that, Councillor Jones, I mean, you could certainly, if you wanted to, put the word showgrounds after Black Butt in the motion at this stage. Is it being investigated? So we might wait till next meeting? Happy with that, Mr. CEO? Okay, that sounds prudent. Okay, so we have it there, have the recommendation there as presented. We have a mover and a seconder, so we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. 7.3 is the assignment of councillor portfolio representation at page 31. Mr. CEO, thank you.
Sorry, can't write as fast as I used to. This was put, the history's there again, I won't go through, I'll do by exception. The recommendation is that we just push back to next month again, but also conduct a workshop. For the last 2 months, we've been in a engagement and consultation phase, or particularly an engagement phase with the staff as far as the realignment. And with the councillor portfolio, it's been the direction, as I've understood it to date, has been to align the portfolios with whatever comes out of the departmental realignment. We've had, there'll be a much more formal report. We've had really good engagement with the unions through the Joint Consultative Committee, as I've mentioned before. We will re-engage with them again before any final decisions council makes. There will be, we've conducted the very first ever staff survey that we can figure for the amalgamated council anyway. The initial responses are excellent as far as we've got 50% engagement across the organisation. How good's that? I was hoping for 30. Now, yes, there's 50% that haven't responded, but for the very first ever go at a staff engagement survey, it's an excellent result for us. And good data, a lot of commentary. So you've got the statistics, and then the commentary. So we're going through that, and certainly the early indications are very positive. We've got some thoughts that I don't wish to go into today because I really do. I'd like to have a workshop with councillors for information to talk about thoughts, and then we will bring back the formal reports through the October process. So it's just an update report as to where we're at. It's not forgotten. The portfolios are being looked at in line with the organisational realignment, and it's progressing extremely well as far as the information gathering.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you for the work that you and the senior executive team have done in leading that with our organisation. Wonderful to hear that we've had such a great uptake from our staff in providing that feedback. Okay, so we have the recommendation there to the committee that council receives the update report, council portfolio representation for information, and presents a further report to the October Executive and Finance and Corporate Standing Committee, and a workshop be held with councillors prior to this meeting. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Second, Councillor Potter. Speakers for or against? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really look forward to the workshop. I think that'll be important to really unpack some of the work that you've been doing, CEO Mark. I just wanted to understand in relation to that staff engagement survey, I'm so mindful of how those reports can really influence the strategic direction of an organisation, and it's also a great indicator of the culture, and by which we can start setting some targets. You know, you lean in and then you can start to really think about, well, what is it we want to achieve together, and start to align those to some of the needs identified in the survey. So I was just curious about the questions that have been asked in the survey and the actual data, the results. Will that work be part of the workshop that we have?
It certainly will be. And again, rather than trying, that's hence the request for a workshop to sit down and go through it with you. As far as now, I'm very cognizant and totally agree with your point about unpacking, because these are it was a tentative toe in the water as far as where this process goes. Extremely pleased with the results that we've got back as far as not only the engagement but culture, a range of things. It's sometimes, not sometimes, but it's exceptionally refreshing to some of my, say, preconceived ideas of what we might get back have been bedded. Short answer is absolutely, because it's not only that, because that will form part of the understanding of where the staff are currently at, as well as really good, as far as good representation from both internal and external staff out of that 50%. Yes, there's more numbers in the external staff, but sometimes engaging those guys can be extremely difficult. That's, again, not critical. It just there is a range of issues sometimes with that. So we've got a broad representation across the organisation. We've got, anyway, yeah, it's full, but yeah, short answer is yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Just supplementary question, if I may. Just in terms of that, when the results are released, I think it's really important, after council has mulled over it, and certainly the senior executive team, it's really important that they're communicated back to the staff. And I guess I'm just keen to understand, as part of that workshop, the communication strategy that there might be in place to actually go out, because I recognise it is challenging to meet with all of our staff, but actually go out and meet with all of them and work through the results. I've seen great outcomes from that in the past.
Again, we must have had tea last night. The engagement strategy going forward, so we've guaranteed the unions. So firstly, we've guaranteed privacy. So that was absolute. No individual could be identified or recognised from their response, be it good, bad or indifferent. We wanted honest feedback as best we could get. And again, and there's always sometimes, well, not always, but there is generally a hesitation with these, particularly when you do it internally. That's why absolutely chuffed. We decided we had the capacity and the ability to run this first one internally as a bit of an exercise. The engagement with the staff, so the staff will be informed of all the results. That will be absolute guaranteed. Again, that's whatever happens out of the realignment process and discussions going forward, it doesn't matter. We're looking at this as building us a very strong, well, we use the royal we, but I'm looking at this as building us a very strong platform. So we've been ramping up over the last 3 years that engagement, and you can start, when you get these back, you can start to see that cultural shift that you're talking about and that engagement, and the staff should rightly have an expectation for it. As we align management culture to, and management, again, some of the things, and I've flagged it before, but the senior management team, I don't believe it should be called the senior management team, it should be the senior leadership team. Now, what's in a name? A lot to me, yeah. So this is the opportunity to review, reset, and then move forward into the next corporate plan. But yeah, no, totally on the same page.
Fabulous. Really look forward to that. And sorry, the last thing I just wanted to ask, in terms of the questions for the survey and how that was decided, just keen to understand that process. What were the key themes that were decided on, and how were they shaped into the questions that have gone out for consideration?
Okay, that was pretty much. I'll take. That was myself and people and culture and the senior exec. It was predominantly for this first one. We went. Conservative's probably the wrong word, but steady. Are you engaged, and where do you see you fitting into the organisation? So this very first one was really that entry level, and again, without spending money on external parties, and we thought we'll go basic, but yeah. So fundamentally, the two principles were engagement within the organisation, culture, and what's impacting your role or your job.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. Well, thank you, Councillor. Are you comfortable with that response at this stage?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very important piece of work.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers for or against? Okay, just in probably summarising, of course, in our strategic, for the benefit of those who may be engaging, Council's new corporate plan identifies strategic priority number 5 as organisational excellence, and this has been a very productive conversation this morning, a very productive body of work done thus far, Mr. CEO, in relation to 2 items that I note there. First of all, I've lost my path here, but yeah, develop a continuous improvement, customer-focused culture led by the senior. I'll look forward to perhaps changing that to leadership team, not management team, underpinned by an effective performance setting, monitoring and evaluation system, but also develop for endorsement by Council a workforce plan that guides the engagement, development, management and performance of Council's human resources, Council's people. And yeah, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. There's some wonderful observations there about not just taking the community with us, but making sure that we're all moving forward together as an organisation, all 300 odd of us, whatever the number is, together. And I think we're all looking forward to the day when we see all of our staff walking down the street with pride in the South Bennett Regional Council logo and what we're achieving. And it was remiss of me just previously, if I can just, with the liberty of council, just acknowledge and thank, prior to wrapping this up, our senior executive team and our senior leadership team for the work you've done in relation to balancing off the Works for Queensland projects, the only council in the Wide Bay region to do so. And of course, we aren't the most well-resourced council, but we got the job done and delivered for the government. So well done, where we're against other councils that have very strong design teams and planning teams in place that are well-resourced. Our small band of hard-working staff got the job done. So congratulations to everybody. Well done. And Mr. CEO, I'm sure council would love to to see that acknowledged through your newsletter or however you communicate with the staff. Acknowledge the work that they've done and let them know that we came out number one in the Wide Bay. Thank you. Yes.
And we didn't miss the opportunity to ask for more money, if I may say.
Yes, we'll be certainly putting that forward to the government, won't we? That we're doing the job for you. So come on, get that checkbook out. So yeah, thanks everyone. This has been an excellent conversation. So we have Councillor Shoemaker's motion there as presented. Let's go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Committee, we do have the Wheatland State School children arriving with their teachers and staff. They're just getting off the bus into the forecourt. So with the leave of council, I might suggest that we break for morning tea to greet the students in the forecourt, and then they're going to join us for the meeting. So I'll move that we now adjourn the meeting at 9:53 a.m. and resume in 30 minutes for the commencement of the meeting. So I'll move that. Councillor Henson, seconder. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all, and we'll see everyone back here at, let's say, 10:20 a.m. Thank you all. Okay, welcome back. Now reopen the meeting at 10:30 a.m. Welcome back, councillors and staff, and very, very special welcome to the students and staff of the Wheatland State School. Lovely to have you here with us for our committee meeting today. I'll now move that we resume the meeting. We have a seconder. Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now move on to item 7.4, can be found at page 33 on the agenda, which is resolution for the engagement of a consultant for council. Mr. CEO, would you please lead this? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Councillors will recall that last year we engaged this consultant. Rainmaker provides certain services in the consultation space that are advantageous to council for advocacy and media, strategic media in particular. This is indicated to council if there was any further future engagement in this financial year, we would bring the report back to council at that time. So this is conversations with Rainmaker has been that it would be until December this year, and then the would be reviewed, as well as just to ensure that councillors have comfort. We have also now just recently, and particularly for this year, instituted a reporting process so that activities can be documented. There's a file. If ever it's not challenged is not the right word, but if ever there's a query, there's a paper trail. So yeah, so it's a resolution for the procurement process, and yeah, very comfortable with where we're at with it. And the current engagement is to December.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. The recommendation is provided to the committee that council recommends to council. South Bennett Regional Council resolves it is satisfied that it would be impractical and disadvantageous for council to invite quotes or tenders due to the specialised and confidential nature of the services provided to council by Rainmaker Strategic Planning for the 21-22 financial year. Do we have a mover? Councillor Duff. Second to Councillor Potter. Speakers for or against? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we've had some discussions about this in the past, and certainly recognise that advocacy work that needs to occur. I probably would like to see this actually tabled just with a bit of a review around what kind of work has been done to date, because certainly I'm not entirely across what advocacy and strategic media has actually been delivered through this arrangement, and certainly just don't really feel comfortable sort of allowing us to continue a contract that I don't necessarily understand. So I'm probably just seeking for this to come back, maybe I understand in a confidential meeting, but I would like an actual report on what work's been done and what the outcomes of that work has been. Or I understand it's confidential in nature, but if I'm allocating ratepayer funds to this sort of activity, I really want to understand more about it.
Being the case, Councillor Schumer, the mechanism to do that would possibly be to lay this on the table to the next meeting and give the staff opportunity to furnish a report. But before we go down that path, Mr CEO, your thoughts?
Either or, Mr Mayor. As far as the recommendation today carries no delegation, so it's got to come to next week's general. So even if it lays on the table, the end result will go to next week's general. If we pass it today, we can take those comments into consideration with the report that's presented back, if that helps. Either or. So yeah. So today is to flag it. The ordinary meeting next week will be the decision point.
Yeah, I won't be supporting this until I can actually read and understand a report. So for those reasons, I'm not going to support this recommendation. I don't fully understand the work that Rainmaker Strategic Planning is providing to Council, or what cost it has been to Council over these past months, and would like to understand more about that. So I would be much more comfortable if we could have a report and a conversation about this before just sort of signing an open check saying yes, we'll continue this arrangement. That's my view, and I won't be supporting this recommendation as it stands until I see a report that details what we've actually received for the funds we've paid.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just a question to yourself and the CEO, either or, in regards to this and the contribution that Rainmaker has made. Has it been a benefit to you guys? Have you seen the benefits?
Could I answer that, Mr CEO? I think it's probably a matter for the Office of the Mayor. Yeah, most definitely. I've certainly probably very challenging to articulate the benefits.
Yep.
Because often the confidential nature of the work that's being undertaken. Yep. But there is extensive body of work to do in relation to the corporate plan, the strategic objectives of Council. A lot of that does involve strategic, I suppose, alignment with government priorities, and also with senior representatives in the department as to understanding where our programs can align with theirs to be able to then progress those forward. In addition to that, we have been engaging the services in relation to strategic media. Sometimes the results of that aren't obvious, but there is work happening in the background in support of our media team as to, and that work I believe needs to continue. And I would like to see in that body of work, though, Council engage more actively, and I've certainly appreciated the conversation that's happened with in the committee previously as to making our media much more of a team approach to media rather than the Mayor so much individually. So very keen to see that as part of that media engagement, that media policy. We also bring Council along, all councillors along as part of that journey of getting ourselves on the front foot, taking control of the narrative, making sure the community is getting the right information in the right context with the right narrative, and that we can get Rainmaker to work with all of Council in building that process moving forward very strategically in terms of our messaging to the community, alongside the messaging that we're sending through to the various levels of government.
So, I think you touched on it, Mr Mayor, the fact that you yourself, you're the main person that needs to have this ability to get into ministers and everything else, and along with the CEO, and for you to sit there and say that you can see the benefits. I'm yet to require or need these services, but there's an issue coming up very important to the region in regards to heavy vehicle transport, and I think I can see the benefit where Rainmaker might be able to get us and help us organise meetings with ministerial people and all that sort of stuff. So as this sits, I will be supporting this recommendation going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other speakers? Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just wondering, given what Councillor Schumacher has said, and that the report is of a sensitive nature, is it possible, and I'd seek the guidance of the CEO, that perhaps it be brought back to Council and the report in confidential and lay on the table and for this meeting, and then brought back to the next meeting, the ordinary meeting, in the confidential section? Is that something that could be achieved?
Okay, two aspects of the request. The procurement component of it needs to be, the resolution needs to be done in open, because there is nothing to hide. So it's a procurement exemption because of we've resolved to ourselves that this service is literally, as it says, of a very specific nature. So the procurement resolution is a compliance resolution to make sure that we don't trip over anything in the audits and things going forward. The other aspect, I made a note, I'm very happy to bring back a closed report because there is commercial in confidence and it's legitimately. So there's two elements to it. Now, as again, I don't wish to be flippant, whether it gets passed today or left on the table, we'll certainly respond to council's requests and in this regard, and whether the two reports end up in two different sections next week, or I'll just have to have a think about how we do it. But yeah, either or, but yeah, no, very happy to bring back a closed session report.
Okay, so we're at the point where now, I guess, Councillor Schumacher, it's probably a decision point to either move a motion to lay on the table or allow this to progress. We'll put it back to you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to move a procedural motion that this lay on the table until a report can be received and understood by council.
Okay, we have the motion that the matter lay on the table. If the matter's going to be, Manager Carolyn, if the matter is going to be sent to the ordinary meeting, which is next week, in fact, the resolution would then need to be that the matter is placed on the table, is raised at that meeting. Could you just give us some advice around the wording of the motion, please? Is that okay, Mr. CEO? Thank you. I'd like to get it technically correct. I got caught with this one last time.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd be guided by the CEO. He's certainly ideal to his expertise. But my understanding is if it lays on the table, it stays with this committee. But I'm happy to be corrected by the CEO if that needs to be corrected. It would be more of a, if it lays on this table, it stays with this meeting or this committee. And if the recommendation that it goes to the council, that the recommendation has to indicate that the decision would be made by council as opposed to lay on the table, but I'm happy to be corrected.
Yes, thank you, Mr. CEO, if you could. Thank you.
Just add ordinary meeting into the resolution, Mayor. If that's of comfort. Yep.
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Schumacher, if we just clarify that it would be brought back to the ordinary meeting of council?
Yes, provided that gives enough time to the staff to furnish a report and that. Yep. No, fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for the procedural motion? Councillor Duff. We'll go straight to the vote. Those in favour? Okay, so we have in favour. Yeah, so then I'll just, while we're getting that there, so we have two councillors who voted in favour, Councillor Duff and Councillor Schumacher. Those against? Okay, we have 4 councillors who voted against. The procedural motion has been defeated. Which means that we will revert back to the recommendation. The original motion is as presented, has been moved by Councillor Duff and seconded by Councillor Potter. We'll now return to that motion and the opportunity to speak is still available to councillors. Any further commentary? Councillor Schumacher.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I simply just cannot resolve something that I don't have enough information to actually warrant making a procurement decision. So I'm not voting in favour of this. I understand, you know, there are advantages of engaging a group like Rainmaker. However, in the period that we have engaged them over this past financial year, I've had no report, no update, no insight into what actual strategic planning services they've provided to council and what benefits that's actually delivered to council. And as per every budget decision we make, unless I have the information and am comfortable that we're actually receiving value and we've had a conversation about it, I won't support it. So simply will not support something that there is, I'm opening a checkbook here with open, there's no specific figure attached to this and there's no specific outcome. So yes, there are big objectives of our corporate plan, and I think as a team we need to work together toward those. And I'm concerned if we're engaging somebody to sort of do behind closed doors work for us, that I as a councillor have no idea is actually occurring. So no, I will not support this until I can actually understand the services council and the ratepayers of our region are actually paying for.
Thank you, Councillor Schumacher. Okay, any other speakers for or against? Councillor, well, we're going to go to you for right of reply, Councillor Duff, as you're the mover, and that will then conclude the debate. So, Councillor, any other speakers? If not, Councillor Duff, right of reply, and then we'll go to the vote. Thank you.
So I've put myself in an awkward position because I actually moved the resolution, the motion, and then I've suggested, after hearing what Councillor Shoemaker said, that we actually lay it on the table. So I'm actually was keen to see that happen because I'm of the same mind that if the information is of a sensitive nature, that I think we could discuss it in confidential, and then so that council has a better understanding. So I'm actually, although I've actually moved the motion, I'm actually going to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. I don't think there's any reason why Councillor can't, having reconsidered a position pursuant to the debate. So certainly entitled to do so, Councillor Duff, as always. All right, we're going to go to the vote on this then. Those in favour? Okay, so we have Councillor Jones, Councillor Potter, Councillor Henson and Councillor Otto in favour. Those against? Councillor Duff and Councillor Shoemaker. Thank you. The resolution has been carried, 4 votes to 2. Thank you all. Right, well, students, now that you've had an opportunity to see the governance process of council in action, we'd now like to give you an opportunity to come up and speak, and I'd like to now invite 2 school captains to come forward to the lectern, and Mr. CEO will perhaps give you a little bit of an introduction on how to use that. Our students have got a presentation to provide to council. Welcome, students.
Now, can you guys reach that? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Otto and other councillors, Mayor Otto, sorry, and other councillors. Thank you for letting us be here, letting us come, and we loved morning tea.
So we have here 218 signatures from people that want a trampoline park in the Mergen PCYC.
Mr. Mayor, we'll receive this today, and petitions are received by the ordinary meeting of council, so this will be presented to next week's meeting. So the process then is the council receives the petition and sends it off for action and future report back to council, and then there would be a follow-up action with you guys at the school. And just congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Yes, thank you, students. And as our Chief Executive Officer has shared with you, students, that will now go into Council's decision-making process, will be considered by Council in a meeting just like this. So thank you very much again. Right, Council, we're on to now 7.5, Every Age Counts, at page 35. And Mr. CEO, would you please lead us in? Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. This is some correspondence that came to the office of the Mayor, and then Council has replied and advised that we'd be considering it this, we would certainly consider their correspondence. The Every Age is a campaign against ageism. At this point, the recommendation is to, we've attached some, I've found some attachments and information and put there. And it's that the recommendation is that we support in principle anything that reduces discrimination and the Every Age. There would be, once this is adopted, there would be further work required in talking to them and understanding, and it kind of, I would imagine, like the small business campaign, but anyway, that's still to be clarified, hence why it's recommended we support in principle, which I suspect we would do. Any form of discrimination is not tolerable. And and then we can just gives us a head of power to work from there.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that we stand for a world without ageism, where all people of all ages are valued and respected, and their contributions are acknowledged. That we commit to speak out and take action to ensure older people can participate on equal terms with all others in all aspects of life. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move my motion be received.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Okay. Councillor Shoemaker, opportunity to speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I learned about the Every Age Counts movement at the Australian National Parliament Assembly, and I am very passionate about this council, noting that we have such a high population of elderly people in our community. And I know we are consistently thinking about ways in which we can help improve their quality of life through the services that council provides. This to me is about making a commitment, as we have said in our corporate plan, that we want to be a community of choice for people with a disability, and that we want to commit to livability and lifestyle. I think this actually really very much aligns with council's objections and council's intentions, and for me, I think we should be loud and proud about our population, our elderly population, and certainly the contributions they make to the community, and always think about ways in which we can help and support them in our communities. So I'm fully supportive of this movement. I think it's really about our council stating our real genuine belief that we support people of all ages in our community, and it's about fostering policy and making decisions that always consider everybody, which I think this council already does very well. So it's really just putting our commitment in writing, and the Every Age movement does actually provide significant support and correspondence and training and insights and information that could support council in its journey. I think we can continue to learn and improve and always do things better, and this commitment actually helps us on that journey and that pathway. So I'm fully supportive of this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's actually very timely that this one was at the meeting today, because this was actually on the news this morning. And it said that ageism at the moment is against the younger people because we don't listen to their thoughts and ideas, and against the older people because we keep doing things for them they don't want us to do, because they want to do it themselves. So, yeah, no, I support this, and anything we can do to support the whole of community, the younger generation, the older generation, and those of us in between, is wonderful for a council to support.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I endorse what Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Potter have said. I think that it's in our corporate plan that we want to have no discrimination across our region, and it's just a wonderful acknowledgement, a wonderful pledge, and I'm proud that we've put that forward. So thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henshin, Councillor Jones, anything further to add? Councillor Henshin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. As it says there, where all people of all ages are valued and respected, and let me make note that you kids in the gallery today, you will be like us and you will age, rest assured. So there shouldn't be any segregation, and congratulations, Councillor Shoemaker, and certainly agree, Councillor Duff and Councillor Potter. Yeah, this is something that's pretty easy to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henshin. For those who are watching us on live stream up on the camera, and also for our staff and students in the gallery, Council has a corporate plan. That corporate plan governs what Council does. We develop that in consultation with you, the community, and that is our strategic document that guides the decisions we make in this council chamber. It underpins what we see as being our role in developing our community. And in relation to Councillor Shoemaker's motion, members of the gallery, we have in our corporate plan, strategic priority number 1 talks about enhancing livability and lifestyle so that we can elevate the South Bennett region to be recognised as a community of choice. And within that, the key priorities include work with our senior citizens to provide greater opportunities for them to play an active role in our communities and to age in place, which means opportunities to age within their own residence. Secondly, and just as importantly, partner with our region's youth to develop and implement a regional youth plan. I'd like to certainly reaffirm the statements of our councillors that this is about providing equal and fair opportunity for people who are in latter years of life, but also to young people. We see ageism at both ends of the continuum. Ageism that affects adversely young people and ageism that affects our elderly. And so, along with other councillors, I'll be certainly very keen to support and applaud Councillor Shoemaker's motion. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. And in doing so, I'd just like to read a little summary from a letter that we received as a council from the organisation Every Age. And they've said, our vision is a society where every person is valued, connected and respected regardless of age. We will achieve this by working in our communities to positively change thinking about ageing, to reimagine getting older, and set the foundations for current and future generations to age well. It's very well said by the organisation. Okay, so with that, we'll go to Councillor Shoemaker for final words, conclude the debate, and we'll go to the vote. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the Chamber for your support. And certainly, you're quoting our corporate plan, yes, ageing in place. That has been a key priority for many in our community, and it's just so important that, in making this recommendation, in making this, taking this stand, that we really do consider the expectations of the Every Age Counts movement and do our best to deliver on those for the South Bennett community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. We'll now go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Right. 7.6 is the Parks and Gardens Master Plan Advisory Committee. Can be found at page 39. And the recommendation as presented there, committee, is that the committee recommends to council that in accordance with section 264 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, council establish the South Bennett Botanical Advisory Committee. That nominations be called for membership to the South Bennett Botanical Advisory Committee, and that the draft South Bennett Botanical Advisory Committee terms of reference be reviewed and brought back to a future standing committee meeting. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Seconder, Councillor Potter. Councillor Duff, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is one that I'm very passionate about. I've been really, really keen to see the community come on board with our Parks and Gardens team. It's my portfolio, and I think we have some wonderful community people and groups that know a lot about trees and plants and flowers, and they've wanted to be part of the decision-making process. There's a lot of people have said, we should be planting perennials as opposed to annuals, and lots of different ideas. And my vision for this particular committee is that it's hands-on, and that we actually meet in each town and we have a look and at where there could be avenues of trees, or where we could take a garden out and put it in a better spot. All of those kind of things are really hands-on, keen to see the Parks and Garden staff as a part of this come on board. So we work as a team with the managers, the community, and the relevant councillors to really be part of shaping our region to look more attractive, because we want to be a community of choice, and it's all about livability and lifestyle, and a lot of that is about having our parks and gardens and our town entrances looking just smick. And so that's what I think the community, getting some partnering with the community on this will help to have some input and some buy-in from community members. And so I'm very, very excited about this particular botanical garden group. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Other speakers? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully agree. I'm really excited about this committee. I think there's enormous opportunity for our region to learn from each other, and certainly there are some incredible people in our region with incredible skills. So this is a great opportunity to tap into those. I just wanted to understand, I equally see it as important because what I've learned through my short time in council is that sometimes the trees or the species that I may love may not actually be suitable for a park because they can be sharp or they can drop limbs. I know a lot of the people I've talked to in land care groups and really like things that have bristly kind of ends and whatnot. And we've had those conversations about how sometimes they're not appropriate for public spaces. So I guess I can see this as a great opportunity, yes, for community to provide input, but also for hopefully our council staff to have a platform and have a discussion with community around sometimes why the decisions that have been made have been made. I guess I wanted to understand in the terms of reference, they're very simple terms of reference, which I understand you're starting out, so this may change and build up over time. But I wanted to understand there's no real clear number of members, and I know we've got our coordinator of Parks and Gardens, but I know we have a number of people in the Parks and Gardens team who do such an incredible job. So I just wanted to understand, as part of your vision, perhaps from General Manager O'May, is there opportunity for council staff to have input or to be a part of these conversations and discussions, so that when the recommendations by the committee are made, there's almost a process where they have to also be endorsed by our Parks and Gardens team as well, so that by the time the recommendations or the information from the Parks and Gardens committee comes to council, we know that both council staff and the committee are in agreement and that the decision that we are making has been endorsed by both. So probably through you, General Manager O'May, I just haven't read anything sort of in that regard in the terms of reference, and I just wanted to understand how will this in actual practice work in those regards.
Thank you, councillor. General Manager O'May.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so I agree with your comments there, and that's why we've actually got the terms of references draft there, because it's probably an area I did want council to go through and review that membership. We do have the supervisors there are. That was the idea, that they are identified and would be on that to have that backwards and forwards with the people. But there is, as we mentioned this morning about infrastructure, I do see that there probably needs to be input from infrastructure if we are planting medium strips or things out, the impact on that. So hence we had the recommendation to adopt, but with the recommendation that we are actually that the draft be revised and brought back, because I do think that we just need a little bit of tinkering around the edge of that membership and maybe putting some definition on numbers. Like I can't see a committee of 30 actually functioning, so we do need to probably just refine that a little bit. So yeah, that was probably the idea of tabling it today. So as a draft, circulating through, getting the feedback from council on directions that you'd like to see. But the concept was that we would have those experts in the community. We can pick their brains. They can have the backwards and forwards with our experts, like our guys know what they're doing. They know what works and things that they've done in the past. We've got, as you mentioned, trees in one area in a park where there's you can have a fruiting tree when it'll drop rubbish all underneath. It won't cause an issue, but in a main street it won't necessarily be the best place. So yeah, those are the discussions that the group would have, and as Councillor Duff outlined, all of those strategic decisions so that it can provide our guys some advice on future plannings.
Thank you, Jam. You're comfortable with that response at this stage, at least, Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, I am. I do think it's important that we do maybe take this away and provide some feedback. So probably just want to understand what that process will be, whether we do that in a committee meeting like this or whether the team's going to work some more and then bring something back. But certainly I can see, there are always two sides to every story, and I can see how we want to empower and enable our community, our staff and our community to make decisions that are right for us and really genuinely work together. So I do think this terms of reference needs some more work, and I do think there needs to be clarity. And certainly from an infrastructure point of view, I've seen that through the Kingaroy Transformation Project. People have mentioned anything from palm trees to, exactly as you say, lemon trees. So, they're wonderful discussions, and there's reasons why sometimes those things aren't feasible. And I just think, we want a really collective community committee who is working with our staff hand in hand and together, making recommendations that we can be assured haven't been sort of fought out and one side's won and one side's lost, or that they're actually, it's been through a proper democratic process, and that the entire committee actually agrees with what council's adopting. By the time it gets to that stage, I want to try to take the controversy out of some of these things. So that's my thinking. Fully supportive. I think there's more work to be done on the terms of reference, but fully supportive of the vision, and love your passion, Councillor Duff, and all the work you've done to date.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr CEO and General Manager O'May too, and your manager for bringing forward the draft terms of reference. We understand it's very much an initial document to commence the process. It'll get us kick-started, and then as you've articulated, Mr General Manager, we can then flesh this out in more detail through the feedback from councillors over coming weeks, so we can come back with a much more detailed document to the Standing Committee. Councillor Duff, I'll just issue a caution to you. When speakers are speaking, please refrain from engaging in private conversations in the chamber, if you could, please. Thank you. Councillor Potter, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I agree with Councillor Shoemaker regarding Councillor Duff's passion on this. But with regards to the terms of reference, we've got the only councillor being Councillor Duff, which is her portfolio, so that's only natural. But I do believe that when we're discussing parks like, like in Kingaroy or the Nango, the divisional councils actually need to be on that as part of that committee. To me, that should be a no-brainer, because it was a bit like the discussions they had with regards to the trees for the KTP, that because I wasn't involved with that one, so we only got the report back after. And I really think that if we have the input and in these meetings, that is what is needed.
Just on that point, Mr CEO, does our advisory committee meeting process provide the opportunity for councillors to sit in as observers on such?
Oh, sorry, Mayor. Yeah, generally any councillor is more than welcome to it. Well, it's always been custom and practice, I suppose, as far as I'm concerned. Maybe we don't articulate that well enough sometimes, but yeah, more than welcome to come in as an observer if we can get people interested. But I think taking the point of General Manager O'May, and I would acknowledge that this is Pete's work. I've had very limited involvement with it, and I would acknowledge and thank them for bringing it forward. Is it's the draft, and it's being put through for feedback. Would be absolutely welcome on this draft document, so that we can continue to improve it and make sure, but get it right.
Thank you very much, Mr CEO. And of course, I would expect that Councillor Potter, the Chair, would make sure that if there are councillors attending those advisory committee meetings, that they're given the opportunity to put forward their views to the committee as to what the effect it's going to have in their portfolio, in their division. Because of course, this does affect economic regional development. It affects biosecurity issues. It affects what we're doing with our roads, infrastructure work. It affects, mental health and community expectations. So I think it cuts across a whole range of councillors' portfolios, as well as, the people you represent in your division. So I fully support Councillor Potter's comments that we need to make sure there's an opportunity for councillors to come and contribute actively in this space as well. The other thing I just want to point out for the chamber, including our gallery, is that the local, as highlighted here, the local government regulations do provide councils with the opportunity to establish advisory committees. So while we have committees like today, as a council, we also do, we form advisory committees. These advisory committees are often made up of members of the council along with members of the community. So it's a way in which the community can have input into the decisions made by council through a formal advisory committee process. Now, that's not something that's done by a large number of councils. Some councils still do it, but our council, we like to engage actively with our community, and this is one way that we can do that formally through our advisory committees. So just wanted to make that aware, particularly for the members of the gallery, our students. Right, okay, well we do have the motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Duff, seconded by Councillor Potter. Councillor Duff, right of reply before we go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, yeah, as you've articulated, the advisory committee is something that's our council is very passionate about because we want to take the community with us. The second point is that nominations be called for membership to the South Bennett Botanical Advisory Committee. So we're going to put it out to the community, actually to call for nominations. So it'll be very interesting to see just how many people are keen to be on that committee, so that if we get, like 20 nominations, well, then we'll have to, rethink whether we can have that many. So that will be a telling factor. And then obviously the draft will come back to the future council meeting, future standing committee meeting. So just really keen to see this recommendation get endorsed by this particular council team here at this morning. And but just hopefully we get lots of nominations and people passionate and wanting to be part of that committee. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes the debate. We'll now go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.7 is adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council local law-making process. Policy Statutory 056 can be found at 42. Thank you, Mr CEO.
Mayor, this is as much Manager Carolyn's as anyone's. All these, the policies have all been circulated, feedback's received and presented, so really I probably won't talk to them unless there's questions, if that's all right, as thinking of time and process.
Yes, thank you, Mr CEO. Manager Carolyn, anything you want to add as an introduction to the committee? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Section 29 of the Local Government Act stipulates how council must create a local law. This policy reflects that requirement, and there's minor changes to this just to tidy it up because it was due for review.
Thank you very much, Mr CEO and Manager. So we have the recommendation as presented that the South Bennett Regional Council that the committee recommends to Council that the South Bennett Regional Council local lawmaking process policy, Statutory 056, be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Second, Councillor Henshin. Speakers for or against? I just had one question, Manager. If Council was looking to impose fines for people who drop rubbish on our roads or dump their rubbish illegally, is that a local law matter that we can attend to, or is that a state government matter? Is that an example of a local law?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I believe that's a state issue and not a local issue. However, there might be other colleagues in the room more qualified to answer that on a technical nature.
Thank you. Mr CEO.
Yeah, Mayor, actually, rather than, I would have thought it was, I thought there was a head of power under state, but I was just thinking, General Manager, we might just take that one and we'd be very happy to bring that back as a report or a question on notice for the next round of standing committees.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Happy to have that recorded as a question on notice for the future. What gives rise to the question is my concern for the amount of rubbish, Kentucky Fried Chicken boxes and things on the side of our road, McDonald's boxes, or it might be in the South Bennett, and I find that quite upsetting considering how much of a beautiful region we have. It's sad to see that people are choosing to litter our beautiful roadways, so I'll be very keen to see what power there is for council to be able to address that through our local law powers that we have. Thank you, Mr CEO.
Mr Mayor, without being flippant, we probably should add abandoned trolleys. I have never come across a region that has so many abandoned trolleys as here. Yeah.
And we do know, Mr CEO, that you're very active in reporting abandoned trolleys. So yes, can we please add abandoned trolleys as well, because council spends a lot of time and money making our streets and our parks beautiful. It's awful to see people abandoning their shopping trolleys on our parks or our roads. So thank you. Yes, if we could add that to the question on notice. Indeed. Okay, so we've got that there. Then we have a mover and a second. Let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now move on to adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council's Administration Waste Reduction Policy, Strategic 025. It can be found at page 50. And Mr. CEO, really keen to hear some background on this. Manager Corporate Services, if you could please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor, this is a new policy that's been driven from Council's commitment to align with regards to find efficiencies and reduction of waste from an administrative perspective for the organisation. And it also follows on from the reductions from when the budget consideration of stationery and thus like those sort of consumables. It allows the head of power for the organisation to address that and move forward in a productive way.
Yes, and thank you very much. Manager, in terms of our corporate plan, of course, we've got strategic priority 4, safeguarding our environment, and we talk about environmental sustainability, waste reduction, recycling in our corporate plan as an important initiative of council and for people of our region. So I imagine that this is underpinning, this is part of implementing that corporate strategy.
Through you, Mr Mayor, correct. The CEO is very committed to those elements of the corporate plan and has articulated that in relation to the creation of this policy.
Thank you very much. So we'll put that out then. The committee has recommended, the recommendation is that the committee recommends to council that the South Bennett Regional Council's Administration Waste Reduction Policy, Strategic 025, be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Potter. Seconder, Councillor Henson. Speakers? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I have had a look at the policy and I think it's a great start. Through our corporate plan and certainly through this chamber, we've had plenty of conversations around waste, and I know there are other organisations and businesses actually adopting targets and actually adopting criteria and guidelines as part of their procurement process, which means, you know, we won't purchase a product unless we know, and I know it's written here, you know, the end product, that product stewardship principle, so how we're actually going to recycle it or what that process looks like. And I'm just so mindful of the options available to councils now. You know, the Queensland government's come out and said no single-use plastics. You know, I'm probably keen to understand what's council's stance on that. You know, we currently purchase paper cups and things across the organisation. We run different events. I know this morning I noticed at morning tea we had paper plates, so that's a great start. But I just think things are evolving in this space, and probably with this policy, I want to see council actually bed down some statements, things like, you know, we're going to always preference recycled materials above things that are new. And I know there is a cost implication with some of those things, but I think it's really important. I don't have all the answers. I don't proclaim to be an expert. But I know we've had many school children in this chamber talk to us about the things they're doing in their schools and their environments to actually be better. And I think there's more that we could do as a council. I think this policy, it's time to actually dust this one off and really think about what we're committing our council to. I know in the policy, you know, it's talking about the hierarchy, but it's not actually talking about what we're going to do. What are our actual principles when it comes to, what are our values when it comes to making purchasing decisions? And I really do think there's a bit more work that could be done here. So I'd actually like to workshop this one with council's waste management team and maybe some of its environmental health staff. I don't know whether we bring a couple of people to the table and actually have an open and honest conversation about other things that might be other councils are doing. I'm mindful we've got a wealth of resources in our neighbouring councils. I'm just not keen to sort of approve this one yet with a little bit more work. And I think in line with the objectives of our corporate plan, I think there are maybe some simple things. It could be a start. You know, I'm not saying let's commit everything, but I am saying, you know, there are changes afoot, and I am saying that I think we need to look at this more carefully and really think about the areas in which council could perhaps make change. I know, no doubt, there are already some things in play, but I think potentially I'd like to understand what they are and if there's opportunity to do more. So that's my position on this one. I'm actually not in support of adopting it as it's presented. I'd actually like to have a workshop and further discussions about it, and maybe even challenge our staff to come back with some ideas outside the realm of what we actually already do, so that we can consider the risks associated with those, the costs, those sorts of things, and actually show some leadership in this space.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I think certainly your organisation is certainly moving forward with showing leadership in relation to the strategic priority in our corporate plan around safeguarding the environment. And of course, Manager Carroll, this would have to be seen alongside our operational plan, wouldn't it, in terms of what are the things that we're actually putting into our operational plan practically to deliver on the outcomes that we're seeking under this policy. Could you perhaps give us a little bit of a better understanding of that, if you could? Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. In relation to the adoption of this policy, this gives us a start to the process to then review our other policies, like our procurement policy, etc. So at this point in time, there is no commitment for council in relation to this space in a policy sense. There is obviously the corporate plan and other documents that guide council's decision making. So this policy, should it be endorsed today, will then trigger the further review of our other policies, and also a review of our operational plan in terms of those line items, those key activities that we wish to deliver for the financial year. So we currently have no document in this space in terms of council's commitment to this sort of activity. So it would be helpful from an operational point of view to have the policy endorsed so that we can then take further steps.
And Manager, that being the case, just a question for the benefit of council, should we adopt this policy at our ordinary meeting, is there then the scope to continue to flesh out, build the policy into a stronger document over coming weeks and months? We don't have to wait, for example, to an annual review?
Absolutely. It then triggers the opportunity to have those discussions, review further policies, and consider KPIs and benchmarking in terms of other councils and what their activities are. There are a number of initiatives that the organisation has started to scope and consider operationally, and this policy will allow those to come to fruition.
Thank you, Bennett. Are you happy with that response, Councillor Shoemaker, at this stage?
Yes, at this stage, being that we haven't had a document in this space, that's interesting. I still would like to workshop this further with the staff. So I understand if we adopt it, that council can bring it back. But I'm also mindful, at the moment we probably receive 10 policies a week, and it's very hard for council to actually review that through emails and things with other activities that are underway. So I'd actually like to see council make a dedicated effort with this policy. I know there is certainly some work that clearly has to happen behind the scenes, so I'm happy to adopt it in principle, but I probably want to understand, yes, there's these other policies to review, but if we don't currently have a real commitment from this council or a real policy stance, I'm just not sure in terms of the time frame. If we haven't had a policy, I certainly understand if we adopt this, then we'll have a policy in a place to start. So I'm not against that. No, it's great to hear there are initiatives being scoped, but I probably want to understand more that engagement process or that plan going forward. So if there are initiatives, we're talking about big policies, big decisions. What does that roadmap kind of look like for council from the time we adopt this? Is that another, 6 months? Will there be working groups? Their sorts of things. I'm happy to do it, but I just don't want it to sit on a shelf and a few things happen behind the scenes, but we're not necessarily clear on what they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Potter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Manager Carolyn on bringing a policy like this forward. And as mentioned earlier, any policy can be brought back to council at any time for changing. The other thing is I'd like to, dare I say it, if you look at the paper in front of you, councillors, now, I have my computer where my meeting is on. A lot of you still have the paper copies. So if we're going to do something like this, we really need to make that commitment within ourselves as well, not just the council staff. We need to take an internal look at ourselves and how much paper we generate as councillors as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Potter, and the Mayor will soon need to pull himself into line and show some leadership in this regard, because I've got a lot of paper sitting on my desk up here. That's for sure, much too much. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm keen to support this policy today. I think that we've had, it's been, as is our process, under review by the councils, and we've had a chance to provide that feedback, as has been articulated by the manager. There's some initiatives in there that they'd like to see happen sooner rather than later, so I think we need to endorse this policy today, and as Councillor Shoemaker has suggested, it's a work in progress, so then we move forward and we make the necessary changes, but certainly happy and keen to see it supported today.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hensham. Councillor Jones, anything to add? Happy at this stage. Councillor Hensham.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. And Councillor Shoemaker, you're exactly right. There's waste and waste management and reduction is an ongoing thing, and I think this policy, and congratulations, it's a starting point. Waste is changing every 6 months. I mean, we will start and to get a document, and this allows us to put that in place. As we know, every 3 to 6 months there's regulations and changing, and we know only too well ourselves with the facilities that council have in waste management and what we're trying to do in reduction there in time. So there's a lot of work to do in this space for sure, and it's going to be challenging, but I think we're on the front foot with this. And in reading through this and just, the examples and activities that could be applied, look, I'd be confident to say that most of those are being applied or going to be applied anyway as we move forward. So, yeah, I'm happy to support this policy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hensham. Just wrapping up, the policy, as stated here, it's all about managing waste, avoiding, reusing, recycling, recovering, treating, disposing of waste. A good initiative to see council as an organisation taking the lead. Right, well, let's go to the vote on this. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Mr CEO.
Mr Mayor, I've just made a note, so call it a workshop, but what we might do, General Manager May, is we might get some of the staff together, because it is an area that we want to explore, and this is picking up the point we had nothing. So this is every journey of 1,000 miles starts with one small step. So the corporate plan, initiatives and things like that. So we may just put out a normal meeting invite for anyone who wants to come, as far as where do we go next with this, and certainly have got that as a note, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Now, our students have been very patient and watching and observing, listening to the council debate and activity, and I believe it's now time for you to go back to the classroom. I can see smiles coming on your face as we say that. Students of Wheatland State School, thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you. We know you need to get back to school, so yeah, have a wonderful rest of day. Thank you. Okay, so we're now up to item 7.9 at 55, adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council dealing with the complaint involving the Chief Executive Officer policy, statutory 054. General Manager, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just do a summary here. Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. This policy here is a statutory policy that's been developed there for complaints regarding against the CEO. and also gives the CEO the opportunity as well to refer any complaint made to him about his conduct to the nominated person. So the nominated person identified in this policy is the Manager of People and Culture. So that responsibility for investigation or referral ends there with that manager. So that's the summary of the policy, and if Manager of People and Culture, Rebecca Humphrey.
Thank you very much, General Manager. So the recommendation is that the committee recommends to Council that the South Bennett Regional Council dealing with the complaint involving the Chief Executive Officer Policy, Statutory 054, be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover? Councillor Potter, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Henson. Councillor Potter, would you like to speak first before we go to the speakers? No. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just thinking on that nominated person that perhaps it should be the Mayor, because I thought the Mayor was the responsible for leading the CEO, and I'm just concerned to ask an officer to be responsible for reporting their own boss could be a very delicate situation. So just wanting to question that and suggest perhaps a change.
So this is obviously legislation and regulations. What's the appropriate process here? Let's take the advice from the staff. Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The Crime and Corruption Commission requires under Section 48 of the Crime and Corruption Act that the Council has a policy. This policy was initially provided in draft by the Crime and Corruption Commission to Council so that Council could introduce this policy appropriately. They worked with Council quite diligently in terms of advising how Council should approach complaints internally, and they put forward that it would be the manager at that time of Human Resources, which has now transitioned to the title of People and Culture. So we've simply changed the title over the time to reflect the change of structure and maintain that approach. So that was as endorsed by the Crime and Corruption Commission. Any major or significant changes to this policy, we must consult with the CCC to ensure that they accept any changes.
So effectively what you're saying is the CCC have put forward that the Manager of Human Resources, in our case People and Culture, equivalent position, is the appropriate person to whom the Council should have nominated as the nominated person for reporting such matters. So that's CCC advice. Yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you very much for clarifying. Yeah. Right, okay. Any further speakers, comments, questions on this one? No? Okay, very good. Well, let's go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Rightio. So we're up to adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Corporate Risk Management Policy, Statutory 020 at page 60. Again, General Manager, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. This policy was actually workshopped, and I appreciate the councillors' participation and attendance. I think you did get a lot out of it, and to understand the appetite of council. The overall appetite for risk is moderate. There is identified, and we took your feedback into consideration there as well. And this policy then also identifies the risks that we have within council, where you've got your workplace health and safety risks, your corporate risks, and it clearly defines the risks that we've identified within the council structure. So, and I'll just hand over for more detailed information to Manager Carolyn.
Thank you, GM Susan, and through you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to the workshop, Council had identified a low to moderate appetite for risk, for corporate risk, and through the workshop it was extrapolated out to per category, through category of consequence, which allows operationally the organisation to respond and react to matters that they have to decide on a daily basis in relation to the appetite for council. So it assists us in our day-to-day undertakings and through the operational plan, making sure that we can achieve that to the suitable risk level that council would generally accept. There is also additions in the policy where the recommended level of risk or acceptance of risk would be outside of the criteria for the low to moderate, and that's articulated now within the policy as well, under what circumstances council may consider risk outside of those parameters of low to moderate.
Thank you, Manager. So we have the recommendation that the committee recommends to Council that the South Bennett Regional Council Corporate Risk Management Policy Statutory 020 be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover? Councillor Henson, thank you. Second, Councillor Potter. Speakers? Go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, next one is adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Councillor Code of Conduct, Statutory 001 at 68. Mr CEO, thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much. Now, councillors, I had the opportunity at a professional development, we had a professional development opportunity last week, and King and Company solicitors were there, and so I had a range of discussions about several academic governance items. A lot of the councils so the Councillor Code of Conduct has been replaced, as you're aware, by the state statutory code. So we can't touch this, we can't muck with it, we can't do anything in conflict with it, is the first thing. So whatever we adopt cannot be in conflict in this, and this has precedence over any process. A number of councils have dropped off their individual policy in this space and just rely totally, certainly have a single point of truth for Councillor Code of Conduct, and that's governed as is by the state, and if that changes. So one option I just wanted to present to you today, we keep the policy heading and space, we drop our policy out of the process and we just insert this and reference this until sometimes some government down the track thinks it's a good idea to change it again and you have to develop your own. We can leave the policy as it is, either it's either is, and it was just as much today to gain your thoughts on it. Now there is no time sensitivity, I don't believe, Carolyn, on this, so if you want to have a bit of time to think about it, but it was to put it forward formally. The one thing that would need to be changed, which I was and wanted to confer with King & Co, in 3.3, and this sort of ties back to Councillor Duff to the question before, because the segregation, but the move between operational and organisational and the role of the CEO and the Mayor concerns Councillor. So we already have the employee conflict of interest in the employee conflict of interest. So Councillor spoke about adding that in. A councillor would not raise the concern with the Mayor, a councillor would raise the concern with the CEO. So the advice is to remove the concerns with the Mayor because it falls outside the Mayor's jurisdiction because it's organisational. Now, that's not meant to be funny, it's just the advice is that there is now, and it's becoming even more clear in some circumstances, that demarcation. So the concerns with the Mayor and or Chief, it would be raised with the Chief Executive Officer. Is that a duplication between the employee conflict of interest? I mean, it is what it is. It's I suppose the question is, do you wish to continue with an individual policy statement, or do you wish to adopt you have no, sorry, you have no choice, but we just insert the code and drop the policy out of it. So just seeking a little bit of direction, Mayor, about whether you want to just adopt with that one change in today and send it to next week's meeting, or do you want it to come back, or where you would like to go.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. I think we'll just go straight into a discussion about this before we get anything formalised as a committee motion. Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My position on this is that we actually drop Council's policy, the Councillor Code of Conduct policy, and adopt the Code of Conduct as it's presented from the Queensland Government. My thinking along that is that it does seem like duplication. And my thought is also that should the Queensland Government policy the code actually change, then, our system will automatically be updated to reflect that. I'm kind of a little bit concerned if we have a policy and a separate code. I understand the great work that happens and the team update both, but I kind of think it's a bit of duplication, and should anything sort of be changed and there be a lapse in time frame, it could leave councillors there might be loopholes in there. So I don't know, my position on this is I think the Code of Conduct that the Queensland Government has presented is excellent. It's very clear. I think they've certainly spent a lot of time, energy, money and resources that we don't have in really thinking this through. And yeah, my position on this, I'm happy just to actually drop the councillor code of conduct policy that council has and just adopt the Queensland Government's code of conduct. That's my view, so I'd like to hear those of everybody else.
Yeah, Councillor Potter, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually agree with Councillor Shoemaker on this one. I think that this particular code of conduct for councillors in Queensland is probably one of the best things we can go by. And let's face it, if we're going by this, we're doing well. So I think that I'm quite happy to drop the councillors' code of conduct for South Bennett Regional Council and just abide by the Queensland Government one, as Councillor Shoemaker said.
Yes, I think I'd certainly agree. Is there any councillor that would disagree with what other councillors' views are at this point in time? Because if not, we can go back to CEO to perhaps look to bring this forward to an ordinary meeting of council, perhaps to get this one dealt with, where we can resolve to simply take out and insert. What are your thoughts, Mr CEO, hearing the appetite of the committee?
If that's the direction, if council just receives the report today for information and we'll present a new report to next week's meeting and go down that. So as I said, today there was no firm position. It was just to seek direction. And my apologies for the hard copy attachment. It was, by the time the conversation was had, we pretty much had prepared the agenda. So yeah, so it was certainly, it was, yeah, not for today, but I had a brief conversation yesterday with the mayor. We had an extremely vigorous, it was an hour and a half of good advice at no charge, that we had an extremely vigorous debate about privacy, and certainly picking up the comments from councillors in the past about what information and who it is. And anyway, yeah, that will come back. So it was very enlightening about where the privacy and the implications, and yeah, got some good stuff out of it. So yeah.
Thank you, Mr CEO. I know you got a body of information out of that conversation and debate you had through the conference, and be keen to hear that back, that advice back to council. Yeah. Okay, so that being the case, I think I'd like to now move that the report just be received for information. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter, thank you. Speakers, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I know it's probably not directly in relation to the councillor code of conduct, but something I would like to see us have some discussion about is the recent report around the Cairns councillor whose court case has begun around defamation and use of social media. And there's some interesting insights there. I'm sure I've seen something in the OIA material that's come through. And yeah, through you, CEO Mark, just further to the councillor code of conduct, I think there's always an opportunity to learn. And I believe there are changes to Queensland Government's defamation law, and perhaps there's I don't know whether it's a question on notice or a future report, but I would really like to, if we've got those connections with King & Company and some of these sort of changes are happening, I'd really like to understand them, and would welcome your thoughts in relation to that, CEO Mark. I know social media can be a interesting place.
Thanks, Councillor. If we could note it, because a number of the documents we've circulated previously are public domain, so we can easily bring back an open council report. It is not only the defamation case, there's been several quite significant defamation cases. The teacher on the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast, the one with the parents, there's been some significant rulings in the social media space, but the most significant one for those who are interested in this space is the High Court ruling that upholds that anyone who puts up a social media page, a Facebook page, is a publisher. So you are now no longer protected if someone hops on the page and says XYZ is a XYZ. You as the publisher of that page have the same rights and responsibilities to moderate that page as a person who's in the print or media industry or publisher of material. So there is no defence, well, it looks to be no defence as it's rolling anymore, and say, oh, it's not my comment, I didn't know. As soon as you're made aware of it, it gets moderated, pulled down, or dealt with. So, yeah, Mayor, if you're happy, we'd be happy just if we could take it as a report and bring it back.
Agree with that, Councillor Shoemaker?
Yes, absolutely. Really would like to have that understanding across the chamber, definitely.
Yeah, be interesting to see in that report an update on some of the emerging case law changes that we're seeing come through that's setting the new boundaries around these issues. Changing world indeed. Okay, Councillor Potter, thank you.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention with regards to on the standards of behaviour 1.3, and it says here, use only official council electronic communication accounts, e.g. your email account when conducting council business. And I think this probably should be brought to note, because we do get a lot of people contacting us on Facebook pages and everything, and I think it should be known that we can't actually respond officially to those pages. So I have an automatic response, and I have been told that if I've got a page I should be responding personally, but the thing is we're not allowed to, and it's written in black and white right there. So I think that's something that should be known.
Thank you, Councillor. This is an interesting one. Certainly be going to our CEO. We might need to do some further get a report back on that as well as part of that body of work, because I know that that, to my understanding, goes to the fact that there has been a council that was engaging in communication on private emails, and that was part of what the CCC found. And that they were trying to do that to avoid being picked up by the organisation internally in terms of their communication on the council's record-keeping system. So I've actually read some of the case on this where those councillors were using private emails to talk to each other. But I'm just not sure how this then applies to social media. I know we have seen the OIA put out some guidelines around not engaging in debate on social media, as councillors, but I'm not sure how that applies to your personal page as against your official council page. So, Mr CEO, you're probably keen to hear your thoughts on what Councillor Potter's raised here, and then whether we need to perhaps do some more work to clarify this for councillors.
Yeah, we can bring it back. We have no ability. Firstly, the state code, we have no ability to change that, so it would be an education, training, information session on it. It's just beyond our legal capacity to change it. The two aspects of it, I have the same issue as far as CEO. You're not supposed to, and we do have it with staff periodically where they actually think they're being extremely helpful and they send out private or personal information, and which, as in contact details, which is lovely. It's absolute. It's always a feather glove as far as approaching it, because council, it's an official record, and we'll bring it out. It's the information, we have circulated it in the past, but council business is same as, and councillors may remember the kerfuffle at state government level about ministers engaging in private official government correspondence through email. Some of it came out of that as well. It's an official record, and so you tip over the record from, and I'll bit rusty, but you tip over the Records Act because an official record. So you have social media, and then you have your official engagement via email over here as well. So if you're engaging in council business, it's done through the council email or the council record system, because they are official records and they need to be preserved by the organisation, which are captured either through the service, through the backup, or one way or t'other. Social media, you have best practices without thinking that whether it's mandated or not, without checking, is a personal page for your personal engagement where you clearly articulate when you're acting in the role as a councillor or not acting as a councillor. So a lot, and I suspect a lot of you have already, well, without saying confidently, of double checking, Councillor XYZ, this is my councillor page, please like me and follow me for information. I'm XYZ of Kingaroy, and this is my personal page. I'll use myself as the example, my personal page, and that's why I'm reluctant to accept. It's very rarely I'll put anything council orientated on my personal page, periodically, if it's something I'm particularly proud of personally, I will let it go through. But I've got it set up so anyone that tags me, I get to review and say, okay, it allowed on the page or not, because my personal page also carries the disclaimer. This is my personal page, this is my personal. So, and for those who know and love me, there's generally Cats, Star Trek, or something very inane that won't interest anyone else except me. And so I clearly articulate when I'm acting in the role of CEO in social media land and when I'm acting in the role of Mark Pitt. And that's, yeah, no, it'd be a really good report to bring back, Mayor, and it's probably very timely, again, just to cover those pages, because it is a minefield, and I think what you just said is so true. It's consistently changing now.
It absolutely is, and the commercial and commercial practice is changing. Community practice is changing, where people are now, rather than using email, are communicating through Messenger or communicating on Facebook. So it's almost starting to take over as a method of written communication now, I've noticed. So it does raise a really important issue. And I think Councillor Potter's raised a really good issue here as to 1.3. What is the intent of that provision, and what is the definition of conducting council business? So if you're communicating with a constituent about something, when is that considered council business? I suppose to get some clearer understanding for us as councillors there would be great. So, yeah, look, if we could, yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO, and perhaps some further training, because it's a space that changes so quickly, so it's changing so rapidly in terms of practice and custom out there in the community as to use of this technology. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, just further to that training, all councillors have an opportunity to have professional development, and I have been engaged in some social media training. It's been really beneficial, so I couldn't recommend it more highly to everybody in the chamber. I'm more than happy to share the resources that I've gotten, but I got a lot out of the social media training that I've undertaken. I also undertook some media training through Peak Services, which was just absolutely exceptional. So there are some great tools and resources available to us through the LGAQ, and I just couldn't recommend them more highly. I will share some of the resources that I've gotten from the social media training, should it be of interest to you. But yeah, there are lots of opportunity there for councillors, should they like to take it up.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. CEO, with your report, will that clarify if I was to put up a post on my personal page in regards to anything that council's discussed? Can you just clarify that in that report, whether that becomes council business? How does that sit? Even though you have your individual page as a councillor and an individual page as a person of the community, and then you post something that's in regards to council on your own personal page, not your council page, does that become then council business? And if you engage in conversation with anybody from the community over that decision, is it then discussing, or is it council business? Will that be picked up in that report, please?
Can do. There's plenty. The guides that we've circulated in the past have it, and a lot of the key in this space is in the wording. It really is. So there's certain disclaimers that must be used if you're purporting to represent yourself personally and not as your role of the councillor. So, Mayor, yeah, if you're comfortable, we're happy to bring. I'll chase up the guides for first start. The OIA and LGAQ put out a guide, and as I said, I'm aware we've said, but it's again timely to recirculate if council wishes. These are all public domain. There's also an official records, information privacy records office, one of those that we've got. So if we attach them all to the report and we put them all out there, so everyone's on the same page. But yeah, there are, and again, my earlier comments, there are disclaimers that do need to be used, and even not on social media when councillors or staff are speaking. And you are talking personally, you have to clearly articulate the civilian hat versus the employment hat.
Yeah, it's probably one area where the code of conduct doesn't provide a lot of detail. It doesn't actually talk specifically about social media in any context, other than where I know there has been some cases tested in the OAA in relation to item 3, reputation, where it says here that ensure conduct does not reflect adversely on the reputation of council. So, for example, councillors will at a minimum conduct themselves in the following manner: when expressing an opinion dissenting with the majority's decision of council, respect the democratic process by acknowledging that the council decision represents the majority view of the council. When making public comment, clearly state whether they are speaking on behalf of council or expressing their personal views. And then it goes on to say about maintain the strength of public trust and confidence in the integrity and avoiding any action which may diminish council's standing authority and dignity. So, yeah, I guess there's some judgmental, that's a bit subjective. There seems to be more work to be done here, Mark, on this policy as well by the department in clarifying this in terms of social media. Yeah.
Just in regards to that, and well aware of those comments that you make, but I haven't yet been able to get any clear indication that once you declare that and all the rest of it, and then you go down and then you have conversation and make comment to people that respond to your post, is that then not deleting that comment? You are then engaging in council discussion. That I'm aware of all those comments, and I just think, that to me, that's a bit of a cop-out. It's just, you're out there, if we put posts up and all that sort of stuff, we're certainly looking for a conversation, and that certainly, with the code of conduct, it enables you to, per se, conduct business. But after you put that post up and you put those comments up, and then you get in to make comments further down, is that not getting involved and having conversations? That's what I'm looking for clarity around. I haven't been able to get anything clear on that. I'm very wary. I don't talk to the media, and or very rarely I talk to the media at the moment, and social media. I put a post up on my council page, and like the CEO, I stay well away from any council business on my own personal page. I make comment and all that sort of stuff about all my own individual stuff, but I stand corrected, or would be corrected, but I believe that I don't and haven't ever put any council discussions or comments. And I'm like Councillor Potter, when people comment on Facebook or something like that, and they say, oh, you need to respond or whatever. I don't respond. They can abuse me, call me for whatever I want, but I don't do it on social media because I don't believe that's a platform where you should have discussions in any conversation around council and decisions or comments that are made in the chamber or anywhere else as far as council goes. So I really want some clarity around that moving forward. I don't know how you go about that, Mr. CEO. I wish you well, but yeah.
Yeah, Mr. CEO, obviously some of this could well come down to what the tribunal and the OAA have determined in testing, some case testing around the application of the code of conduct to those sorts of scenarios, and whether we can get that information from the tribunal might be helpful.
Yeah, or the department. Mayor, if just as a path forward, because some of this stuff I can't answer either, unfortunately, but if we pull all the material together, and through practical experience, I have seen over years, and not even in just recent times, but tribunal decisions or decisions that have been, it's really almost dependent sometimes on who's been assessing, whether they knock it out or keep it in or where they go. And then the variation of the comment or the post or the action behaviour needs to be assessed against the actual the code of conduct now is different to the one that was 2 years ago because it wasn't mandated, and it was, so it's assessed against its framework of that time, not against the modern time or the olden time. And so anyway, yeah, we pull it all together and bring a report back on it, and then we can expand it out to where we need, and we'll also have a look at other opportunities as departmental training.
Mr. CEO. Okay, shall we move on? Where are we at now? Up to the vote? Received information. We'll go to the vote. Those in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, so we're now, well, hang on. Councillor Duff, I believe we've got we'll need to adjourn at 12 o'clock, will we not? We've got a teleconference with a federal member. Okay. We might, that being the case, might now look to adjourn the meeting can we adjourn the meeting, Mr. CEO, until 1 o'clock perhaps for lunch? I'll move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson, those in favour? Carried unanimously. So meeting's now been adjourned and we'll resume at 1 p.m. Thank you all. Welcome back, everybody. I'll now move to reopen the meeting at 1:11 p.m. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. We're up to 7.12, page 74, which is the adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Remote Piloted Aircraft Drone Policy, Statutory 055. So, General Manager, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Council actually operates a drone that the ICT staff have gone and been licensed to operate, which is a big coup. It's very difficult to get a licence for this. And Council's been using it for high level, instead of things at height, it's that it flies above our assets and it takes photos of our assets and helps us plot our asset management plan. So there's been very little minimum change to this policy. I think the only thing, it has to comply with the Civil Aviation and Safety Authority regs, which it does and which we comply with. And the only change was the definition of a council representative, just for council's information, that's all. But it's a big coup. We actually nominated this project to the LGMA for the Awards for Excellence because of the achievements. I think, and I'm stand corrected, but I think we're the first council in Queensland to have used the drone for this purpose. So it's a big shout out to our ICT staff, especially David. Thank you.
And General Manager, I'm not sure if we're the first, but we're the first registered by CASA. Yeah, so which is probably the same thing, but yeah, and particularly the registration by CASA, yeah.
Right, thank you very much, General Manager. So we have the policy there. It's recommended, the committee recommends to council that it be adopted. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder Councillor Henson, thank you. Speakers for or against? If not, those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you all. 7.13, adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council demolish, remove or relocate buildings policy, strategic 024 at 78. General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This one's in our area. So, yeah, again, update of an existing policy. Probably just of note, if you a removal home, so the application to move a home is actually technically classed as a demolishment. So you demolish and then do it from one site and reinstate on another site. So there is one very small but very significant change in this policy. So, and it's around the removal of asbestos. So the previous policy said council may require, so that the key word being may, require confirmation that asbestos had been removed and disposed of prior to moving a building to the region. This has been updated to will require, which is consistent with most other councils. So we did require asbestos report, but it wasn't clear or wasn't direct that the asbestos needed to be removed prior to the building coming into the area. So yeah, there's been a conscious effort or conscious decision to replace that with the will require, because we don't, and I suppose we do, and you end up becoming the dumping ground of buildings containing asbestos that that other areas won't allow coming in. So that's probably just really needed to point that out, that that basically that when we have a removal home application, we'd be looking at the asbestos is removed. We get confirmation from contractor that has been prior to it actually coming into the region. But yeah, apart from that, there's a couple of legislative reference updates and time frame. We just with the timing of this work is expended out the approvals from 6 to 12 months, which is more consistent with time frames that people need to complete the work. So, but yeah, that key change was just one word, but very significant.
Thank you, General Manager. So we have as presented there the recommendation that the committee recommends to council that the policy be adopted as presented. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder Councillor Potter. Speakers for or against? Go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.14, adoption of the South Bennett Regional Council Complaint Management Policy, statutory 040 at 84. Okay, General Manager, thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr Mayor. This complaints policy is a generalised one. It references all the other policies we have for making complaints as to the OIA or the CCC. This is mainly administration complaints, or like through a complaint, someone may come in and maybe the service wasn't up to standard of their expectations. So this policy just really supports the administrative or operational side of council. Would you want to add anything? No, that's it. So that's basically what the complaint is, the policy is, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. Recommendation, committee recommends to council that the policy be adopted as presented. We have a mover. Councillor Henson, seconder Councillor Jones. Speakers for or against? Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.15, draft South Bennett Regional Council Media Relations Policy, strategic 001, be tabled at the Executive Finance Corporate meeting in October 2021 at 91. Thank you, Mr CEO.
Thanks, Mayor. So this one's just an update on where we got to. Councillors would have seen yesterday we circulated. We've had our best, and actually I'd like to acknowledge Manager Carolyn. She's done the majority of the legwork, and with my little bit added to it. We've done the best we can and trying to articulate the discussion last meeting. By no way do we believe it may be perfect or there won't be other changes made to it. Looking at a mechanism to deal with it rather than just dropping it on the table and saying, here it is. We've actually fed it back through the governance framework, so it's gone out for the 3 weeks. It'll come back then to the standing committee and then through to the, if all goes well, then to the ordinary meeting. So this is just an update report. This is where we got to. It's the why we got to that as far as using our best endeavours, and by all means, please, if there's something in there that people don't like, feed it back, because it's our best go at merging those 2 drafts.
Thank you, Mr CEO. So recommendation is there, of course, that it be tabled at the committee meeting in October 2021. Have a mover, Councillor Shoemaker, seconder Councillor Potter. Speakers for or against? Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.16, requesting council review a minor local government boundary change between South Bennett and Gympie Regional Council at 92. GMMA, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So this relates to a boundary change between the two councils. So there is a legislative process to be followed. So there is the Change Commission is set up under the Local Government Act. So the process is the local government minister must refer a change. The minister's the only person who can refer a change to the Change Commission. But prior to that happening, they seek the views of the 2 corresponding councils. You do come across these every now and again. This parcel is a small parcel north of Mergen. There's no access from the South Bennett side. I think it's bounded by a state forest on the southern, on our side. It adjoins the landowner has 2 properties in the Gympie Regional Council, which this property is operating in conjunction with. Small. So it's we don't even charge minimum rates on this. I think the current assessed rates for this current year was just under $200, I think, and that would be the waste levy, the emergency levy. So I think the minimum general would be, not part of that. So the recommendation is that it does make sense for it to be amalgamated with those or incorporate into the Gympie Regional Council area with the adjoining lots. It can't be. It can't really stand as a standalone lot, particularly from our area. So, hence the recommendation. So the process, the department came to us for our view. So we recommendation that we offer no objection to the boundary change, and then goes back to the department, and they'll run through their process to get to the minister. Same process would be with Gympie Regional. They'd be requesting their views on the on the boundary change, and then that would be go through the process through the Change Commission. So yeah, I think there's the map of it where it is up on the screen. So yeah, that table and just sort of north of Mergen.
Thanks, GM. So we have the recommendation that committee recommend to council. The council offer no objection to a minor local government boundary change between Gympie and South Bennett to transfer lot 66 on RP 825862 from South Bennett Regional Council to Gympie Regional Council. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, seconder. Councillor Jones. Okay. Does anyone have any questions in relation to council's, the officer's recommendation? No, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 7.17, dog registrations at 96. Okay, this cuts across, but GMMA, you've got your light on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I'll take this. So the request at a previous meeting was for us to investigate the extension of the pensioner discount to all categories, and there was also a second side of the request was issuing the dog registration renewals with rates notices. This report is really only dealing with the first part of that, the 50% concession. There are a number of issues that have been raised with putting the dog registrations in with rate notices around privacy and there's significant risk to council about that process. So that needs a lot further investigation. Rate notices have already gone out for this year and that. So yeah, we've just left that one on hold and thought we'd bring back the concession, 50% concession on dog registrations. We do currently offer a 50% reduction for desexed and microchipped dogs, but it doesn't extend through to entire dogs, which would be the other category. And there is, I suppose, rationale behind that is providing that incentive for people to desex dogs, even though they are a pensioner, and that is actually enshrined in the legislation, and we've got the reference there from the Animal with Cats and Dogs that states the local must fix a fee to give the owner an incentive to desex it, and hence that's why we have the 50% reduction on the desexed and microchipped, and we've got the fees and charges there for all our dogs, and you'll see that, say, for a desexed dog, pensioner or not, is certainly a lot cheaper than an entire dog. We have recommended that the provision of 50% concession not be extended to all entire dogs, because that goes against that rationale from the legislation that we are trying to incentivise desexing. So if you're offering a discount on pensioner or grounds only, that's really not to do with desexing. So we're probably comfortable that the discount remains with just for those desexed microchip dogs. Dogs in the non-defined area, which is outside your rural areas, the fees are $10, $28, so they're not a significant fee. Yes, a desexed dog is in the defined area, it's $170 is a significant fee, but that's in line with that legislative intent to incentivise desexing of entire dogs.
Thank you, GM. Okay. Rightio. So we've got a recommendation here that the provision of a 50% pensioner concession not be extended to all dog registration fees and the report be received and noted. Do we have a mover? Councillor Jones, seconder Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Jones, would you like to speak first, or? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I understand the reasons why this was brought through and how tough things are, but at $16.50, I think the fee isn't exorbitant. I think the General Manager there has given a pretty fair explanation as to why, and it's required that we need to have some sort of a fee there, and I guess the incentives and all that sort of stuff. So without sounding heartless or anything like that, I will support the motion that's been put forward to us today, considering that it's only a $16.50 fee. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
So, thank you, councillor. Okay, other speakers for or against? Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm speaking against this, this motion. I think the issue is the cost of desexing. I googled it. It's up to $450 for a female and up to $250 to have a male dog desexed. A lot of the pensioners, I think, and I've had pensioners come to me, they can't afford that, and plus, so they're prepared to get their dog microchipped, but it's the desexing that is very costly. And those little companion dogs are not the ones that we're targeting or that are out in the community causing the issues. It's the big dogs and the pensioners are mostly just got, like I say, the companion dog. And I'm just thinking that if they're getting them microchipped, that would bring it back to 131. So most of those that have got the issue that can't afford the desexing are paying 131. So if we gave the 50% discount, I just think that that's what we should be doing to look after our pensioners, because I'm really concerned about the cost of desexing and the cost to our pensioners and the fact that they're not the dogs that we're targeting, they're not the ones that are causing the trouble, and I'm just really keen to see us support our pensioners in this instance. Thank you.
You, councillor. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for General Manager O'May. In terms of the desexing of animals, I was of the understanding we do run a campaign around trying to help and promote and reduce the costs of that. Is that still the case? And what were the details of the last campaign we run?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so we're involved in Operation Wanted. I think the RSPCA run a program where they offer reduced desexing rates. And I haven't got the specifics with me. We provide funding towards that program and they get vets on board that will offer reduced rates. And yeah, I just haven't got the figures on, but that there's still a fee, but it is reduced from the 20. Yeah, so something like they offer a 20% discount. So and that so we have been involved in that for the last couple of years and continue. And again, yeah, that's probably goes with that trying to incentivise desexing. But yeah, I just haven't got the exact figures because it can depend on what the vets and that are willing to do the desexing for, and we just provide a subsidy.
Yeah, thank you for that information. My position on this, I actually support the officer's recommendation. By all means, I fully understand how important it is for all people, to be able to have dogs. However, to have a dog responsibly does require a level of commitment from the owner. And when you take on a dog, you really are signing up for that. So I think it's great that there are programs like Operation Wanted to help with the desexing, but as I read here in this report, the reasons why we try to promote desexing of animals is because it is a community safety risk. It says here in the report, desexing helps to prevent male animals from straying during mating season and reduces aggression. I've had aggressive dogs chase me and my kids on my bicycles. It's not fun. Desexing also reduces the risks of some potentially serious health problems for animals, including mammary cancer, and they're less likelihood to get urine infections and false pregnancies. So I do think there's a reason why it's been written into the legislation why local government should support responsible animal management, and that includes desexing of animals. And it's great that we have programs that help people to cover the cost of desexing their animal. And I do read here that, yes, it's for some of those larger male dogs that might be more expensive, around that $400, $500 mark, but the bulk of smaller animals in which pensioners would own is around that $150 to $250, and I understand that may be different across different vets and different services they provide. So for this point in time, I'm fully supportive of this. I absolutely think it's important for pensioners to keep dogs, but I also think it's important they follow the rules like everybody else and have their animals desexed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henshin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I'm supportive of this and I completely understand Councillor Duff's concerns on this. But there is business houses out there in the veterinary practices that do offer serious incentives to control, control your dogs, like their breeding practices and whatnot. And I'll give an example just quickly. There was a local vet not that long ago gave some incentives to have your male and female dogs with that little nip and tuck operation, where he offered incentives that he offered three prizes. The first prize was a $25,000 Harley motorbike, and the second prize was a $19,000 Harley motorbike. And local people in this community won that and got their dogs desexed. Now, how good of an incentive is that for people? The people that won it didn't want a Harley Davidson, but they cashed them in and did other things with it. So there is some serious incentives from some business houses out there that take this on board as well. And I'm passionate about dogs, but let me tell you, in the event of male and female dogs, if you do get them desexed, they turn into absolutely beautiful. If they were beautiful before, let me assure you, they turn into more beautiful pets, and the maintenance on them is automatically halved. So there's multiple purposes for this. Can understand that it's lovely having entire dogs, but there's incentives there, and this depicts it there as well, to be microchipped and desexed as well. So yeah, I can understand pensioners' concern, but I think there's also the incentives there that, and if they want to talk to their veterinary surgeons, they will look after them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Potter, anything to add? Nothing from you at this stage. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to, for the information of council, I did some research on other councils, if that's okay, to share the information. So Ipswich has an entire dog rate of 175 and a pension rate of 80. Logan 155 and a pension rate of 112.50. Gympie 144.20 and a pension rate of 72.10. Toowoomba and Lockyer, Gold Coast, Marino, North Bennett even goes from 120 down to 40. So there's all of those councils that I did research on have all given either 50% discount or some even more. So just wanted to let the floor know that. Thank you.
Okay, righto. So just probably adding to that, summarising what I'm hearing. So, General Manager, we don't understand at this point in time how many pensioners are out there with dogs that aren't desexed on our registration system.
No, so through you, Mr Mayor, so for the entire dogs, those categories that we don't offer pensioner discount, we don't have figures for those. For the desexed microchip category, we can look at that and we calculate, I think it was about 22% of that category are pensioners for that where the pensioner discount offers. So you could extrapolate out that 20% of entire dogs could be owned by pensioners. It may be potentially lower than that, but yeah, it's not recorded on whether they're a pensioner with those entire dogs. So that would be, if you extrapolated out 20% of those entire dog fees, it would obviously be a corresponding revenue loss of that. But we haven't calculated that out because we're only estimating figures. But yeah, it for the ones that we do know, so 22% was in that category that we have pensioners discounts.
Yeah, so I brought this one forward to committee previously, having been approached by pensioners wanting that to happen on the basis that a couple of foundations. Number one, as Councillor Duff's indicated, I've also got some information from the pensioners that it would seem that a number of other councils do provide a 50% discount on all dog registrations. So that does seem to be the case from what I've received from the pensioners. Also, from what they've conveyed to me, and certainly I have nothing to suggest that this isn't correct, that the vast majority of pensioners in their elderly years tend to have the small house dogs as against the large wandering dogs. The large wandering dogs are probably less likely to be owned by pensioners. I think the elderly people in our community tend to have a house dog as company, particularly widowers or widows. I know we have 2 little dogs, and they don't leave the house or stray. One is desexed, one is not. The one that's desexed, from our experience, has never endeavoured to leave the yard, more so than the one that is desexed. But I guess it's a different matter for different dogs. So I think in terms of mitigating reproductive activity of dogs in our community, I don't know that the pensioners necessarily their dogs are really contributing to that, to the issue. I think that from what I can see, most pensioners have little housebound lap dogs that don't tend to go outside too often, and certainly don't tend to wander the streets. The other thing I think is, for me, is the fact that, the pensioners certainly do live on a fairly tight budget. Many of them do get dogs because of loneliness and mental health issues and isolation. At the moment, we charge $170, but that's reduced to $131 if the dog is microchipped. If we were to give a concession, that would come back to $65.50. If, however, it's desexed, the $33 goes to $16.50. So, look, I think in terms of what I've heard from the pensioners, in terms of their particular circumstances, what I'm seeing other councils doing, at least the ones that I've been presented with, I'm not prepared to support this. I think we need to do more work on this and perhaps give it more consideration. I'd like to see it considered further. So that's my view. Councillor Jones, back to you for right of reply before we go to the vote.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. And look, I appreciate every comment, that particularly from Councillor Duff and yourself in regards to this, but I was quite interested. We have an exceptional dog lover, as we all know, in one of our fellow councillors, in Councillor Henson, and he certainly made a very valid point that the maintenance costs and all that sort of stuff seems to lower when you have desexed dogs compared to entire dogs and all that sort of stuff. So again, yeah, I take the point that you've presented some councils that have given concessions. I'd be interested to see just how many councils don't in regards to the ones that do, and the type of councils where they're positioned and located. So taking everything into account, and I understand the difficulties in the communities and all that sort of stuff, and I support Councillor Shoemaker's points in the fact that when you do look at buying dogs and all that sort of stuff, the elderly people do have an option there. I believe that they're fully aware of what's required when you have to look after and care for the dogs, and fully support your comments, Mayor, in regards to the benefits for animals, in regards to mental health and all that sort of stuff. But all in all, I will support. I'm happy with the resolution here today, and I'll be voting in favour of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jones. So that concludes the debate. We'll now go to the vote. Those in favour? Okay, Councillor Jones, Councillor Henson, Councillor Shoemaker. So we have got that, Linnell. Those against? Okay, Councillor Duff, Councillor Potter and Councillor Otto. And so under our standing orders, it falls back to the Mayor, and in the casting vote, I'll be voting against the resolution, against the motion. As such, we'll take the motion as defeated. Mr CEO, where do we go now in relation to this matter?
Given the report, Mayor, I would suggest that status quo currently remains with that being lost. How about if we bring back a further report, because there's been no change, a further report can be brought back to council as far as this, and we might be able to pick up a couple of those other points that's been raised in the debate. Yeah. So if we just note it as a future report, and we'll bring it back next month.
Okay, Mr CEO, is there anything further on that then at this stage? Okay, well, we can give that some consideration. Okay, so let's move on. The climate people are here. Very good. Okay. So we'll look to adjourn. I'll now move that we adjourn the meeting at 1:40 p.m. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. And we'll resume when we're complete with our next session. Thank you, everybody. Okay, welcome back all. Now move that we resume the meeting at 4:31 p.m. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Henson, those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Okay, my pleasure to introduce Councillor Shoemaker to provide the Regional Development Portfolio Report at page 99. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm pleased to report there are many things currently in the pipeline, and I wanted to give you a short update on some of the work currently underway. We know we need to improve the reliability and security of water in our region, and that these water conversations must continue until the problems we face are solved. The National Water and Infrastructure Development Fund, Phase 2 of the South Bennett Options Analysis, is our highest priority. Now that we've received the recommendations and agreement of state and federal stakeholders to proceed with the remaining funds, the team has begun reviewing the scope and project costings, which will be presented at the next Infrastructure Committee meeting for Council's consideration. As evidenced by the study, we have a desire and opportunity to protect, strengthen and expand agricultural and industrial activity in our region while ensuring water security for urban water users. Now that we have strengthened and refined the evidence that supports our region's water needs with data, we will apply a multifaceted approach to improving the reliability and security of water across the region. We know these outcomes are imperative and that by working together we will generate social and economic benefits for present and future residents of the South Bennett and bolster our contributions to the great state of Queensland. Queensland Small Business Commissioner Marie Adshed will provide the keynote address at the Regional Business Forum. Due to the school holiday period, the date of the forum has been changed to Friday the 8th of October, with invitations to all business groups and Chamber of Commerce to be sent soon. In partnership with Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland, the purpose of the forum is to further Council's commitment to the principles of the Small Business Friendly Councils initiative. At the forum, we plan to openly discuss the challenges small business in our region face with a view to ideate potential solutions and collaborate in the implementation of these. I know this council is passionate about simplifying processes and reducing red tape for small business, and I invite all my fellow colleagues to participate in the forum. The feedback gathered at this forum will be tabled by the Regional Development Subcommittee for inclusion in the Regional Development Action Plan. While there are currently only a few representatives from business groups in the region who are members of the subcommittee, I plan to discuss with the attendees of the forum how they can also be involved. The focus of Regional Development Subcommittee will be to focus on the needs, capability, resilience and growth of small business in the South Bennett region. Currently working with CEO Mark Pitt to coordinate the first meeting of the Regional Development Committee. The priority of this committee will be to review Council's Regional Development Strategy 21 to 26 and in a think tank style environment brainstorm ideas for projects, initiatives and key advocacy priorities that will help our region to achieve our core regional enablers. Being number one, the South Bennett has appropriate infrastructure to support industry, investment and livability. Number two, Council delivers streamlined investment support and promotes well-planned growth. And number three, Council attracts investment, growing the economy. A report will be presented to Council with the ideas gathered from these discussions for consideration in the Regional Development Action Plan. Measuring and reporting on our region's performance will continue to be our shared priority. Late last month, CEO Mark and I met with the Assistant Minister for Regional Development and Territories, the Honourable Nola Marino, to discuss opportunities to share learnings, partner and collaborate with Regional Development Australia in developing a plan for our region's pathway to decarbonisation and further understanding its role in a modern energy future. We discussed the advantageous opportunities afforded by our region's existing energy generators, transmission network and water infrastructure that could allow our region to continue to be an energy powerhouse for many more decades. Minister Marino recognised the importance of early planning, and I've since been contacted by Minister Marino's office and engaged in positive conversations about how we may be able to progress this work and learn from other regions with similar planning projects currently underway. I will continue to keep Council informed. Mayor Otto, CEO Mark and I will be meeting with the Queensland Minister for Energy, Renewables and Hydrogen and Minister for Public Works and Procurement, Mick de Brenny, in October. As you may know, the South Bennett has been included in the Southern Regional Energy Zone, QREZ. This means our area has been recognised as being ready for development with a diverse mix of industries and energy sources and a strong network. We are a load centre in South East Queensland and can supply the interconnector to New South Wales. As we know, there is a pipeline of prospective renewable projects in the area with high investor interest. It's my understanding the first stages of the QREZ development will build on this and grow the renewable profile of our region. As we've discussed previously, Council wants to ensure a regulatory framework is in place to hold renewable project proponents accountable to their commitments to landholders and host communities in all stages of the development, being pre-construction, during and post-construction. I look forward to engaging in these conversations with the Minister and am currently preparing the briefing notes. This past month, I've worked with my colleagues to understand more about the work currently underway at the JP Jockey Peterson Research Facility. Councillor Potter, Councillor Henson and I learned about the innovative range of agricultural research, science and development underway, including best management practice as applied to farming systems, risk management, impacts of climate variability and grain food safety issues. We learned about the Pigeon Pea research trials and the strong international and domestic demand for plant protein. It is thought with further research, the crop could eventually match mung bean production and be suitable alternative for broadacre dry land summer cropping in our region. According to the National Economics Modelling for 2019-20, agriculture, forestry and fishing generated $108.1 million, being the fourth most productive industry in the South Burnett. This does represent a decline from $139.5 million in 2014-15, being a change of minus 31.3%. While our region has faced unprecedented droughts and the impacts of COVID-19, it is clear from the data that the continued funding and support of the Kingaroy Research Facility is critical to the ongoing advancements in agriculture in our region. I believe our council has a key advocacy role to play in working with the state government to ensure qualified staff are working with the resources they need at this facility to continue supporting our region's agricultural industry. I've also been working with the council team to prepare funding applications to the Resources Community Infrastructure Fund for the dark fibre connection from Nanango and Kingaroy. The project will utilise existing infrastructure to build increased capacity for alternative ISPs to provide diverse and competitive internet services to the community. The proposed infrastructure will create a foundation for ISPs to build multiple service options in the local system, which will provide increased access and affordability for the community, residents and local businesses. As detailed in the Economic and Social Assessment of High-Speed Broadband in Kingaroy and Nanango report, prepared by KBR for the purposes of the application, the specific services that will be improved should this project be successful in the grant include e-commerce and online retailing, noting that access to reliable high-speed internet drive the ability of retailers to have an online presence. Based on the forecast growth rates of online businesses, there's a potential for these businesses to grow at 8% a year or $14 million collectively over the next 4 years. Further online retailing allows consumers to purchase high-quality, cheaper goods. A US study from 2019 found that access to high-speed broadband has a material impact on employment levels. If these results were replicated, that unemployment, direct and indirect, would decrease by 99 people. A significant social benefit from improved communications is the increased opportunity for social inclusion. And in July 2021, the Queensland Audit Office found the Queensland Education Department's benchmark for internet speed is 200 times lower than the New South Wales benchmark. The Bureau of Communications, Arts and Regional Research estimates the benefits of agricultural sector access to high-speed internet could boost economic activity in agriculture of between 4.7 to 16.9% by 2030. So they're just some exciting conversations that have been had regarding that project and really looking at what data and resources are available. And I'm sure once the submission has been complete, you know, we may be able to share that report with the community. It was just really interesting insights into what high-speed internet could really mean for our region. And of course, they're assumptions, so just want to preface that. I've also been working with Councillor Potter and the communities team to progress the bushfire recovery funding application that seeks to support economic and community development outcomes in the South Bennett over the next 3 years. Should we be successful, this funding would be a game changer in terms of how this council can enable community capacity building and bolster our economic development outcomes. A core focus of the application has included a grant funding component that would enable our council and community to access more funding opportunities available. These are certainly exciting times, and I'd like to thank and acknowledge the council team for their commitment and passion to progress these projects. This past month has seen an extraordinary effort by everyone involved, and now certainly we can only hope to be successful in our funding applications. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that my report be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker, and second, Councillor Henson. Okay, do we have any questions or comments in relation to Councillor Henson? Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker. Councillor Potter, and as Councillor Shoemaker expressed, we went out to that facility, and I'm not sure the Bennett is aware of the work going on there, and it's a huge effort, and congratulations to the guys and girls that work out there, and the research they're doing is certainly not getting the recognition nor the funding that it should be getting. It is just incredible. You know, what they're doing with pigeon peas out there, not to mention their peanut propagation out there and their breeding of new varieties is just incredible. And I'd encourage the next time that we get an email from that research facility out there that we get as many councillors and people in the community and the rural sector invited, because their work they're doing out there is absolutely incredible. It really is. And with little resources. They're passionate, those guys and girls out there, about the work they're doing, and it's an absolute credit to them. And yes, thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. It was an incredible day. We probably spent a little longer there than we would have, but I could spend all day there. So, yeah, excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we certainly do look forward to seeing those applications processed, and with fingers crossed, if we get them across the line, there's many benefits there. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Okay, so Councillor Duff.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to the hopefully the success of the bushfire recovery grant. I do think that will be a game changer. It's something we've been to get someone on the ground to work with the community groups. I just think it's a huge opportunity for us. So fingers crossed for that application, and also looking forward to the forum. Just wanted to flag that there is going to be a field day that afternoon that I hope you're aware of, that Carl Rackman's organising with Mark Young. Just want to flag that so that if you do host that forum, maybe have it in the morning as opposed to the afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Right, anything further, councillors? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Okay, 8.2 is the Council's tourism brochures at 102. Perhaps if I could put forward a procedural motion, this matter lay on the table until the October Standing Committee of Council.
Next week's ordinary?
Or next week's ordinary. So I might actually be guided by the committee as to which way we go here. Are we, Councillor Shoemaker?
Certainly, I think perhaps committee meeting would be better, just to enable that conversation. I'm mindful of how big next week's council ordinary meeting agenda could be. So yeah, my view is I think it's always great to have the conversation in committee meeting and then sort of go to the general meeting with sort of some idea of council's way forward there. So that would be my preference, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. As such, Councillor Shoemaker, you happy to second the motion? Then thank you. We'll go to the vote then. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 8.3 is the Regional Development and Tourism Monthly Update at 106. And Mr. CEO, thank you.
Oh, got me. Probably didn't push it hard enough. It's an information report, Mayor, and it's certainly part of the Let's Drive magazine. I've actually got a copy of that with me. There's we've got the VSB update in there, our statistics. This space is getting very busy, as you can see by the length of the report now with the information, the August newsletter from VSB. So that's all flowing very good. As far as the information between the parties, and the tourism officers are working together. We've also got the other attachments, so the VSB tourism officer and one of our council's tourism staff will be meeting very shortly and at their level. SQC monthly report and the tourism sentiment reports that generally produced. We've got, and this is part of the broader conversation, VSB is getting its touring guide out shortly. Drive Queensland's done theirs. And then was the old South Bennett Times Council publication, which is now looks like it's going to be picked up by South Bennett today. That's due for being put together by November this year. So a fair bit of material being pumped into the market. But other than that, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So we have the recommendation that report be received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Henshin. Okay, speakers, Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge it was wonderful to read that the woodcutter George McKellar actually visited the Wandai Timber Museum to admire the log he fell many years ago that now resides in the car park at the museum. I'm sure you'll all agree that is an incredible log. And it's just wonderful that he actually got an opportunity and that report's come through. So thank you to the team who's given us that good news story so late in the day. And I just had a question in terms of the Let's Drive Queensland magazine travel guide. Just who produces that and what's its circulation? I'm not actually aware of that one. Let's Drive Queensland. Yeah, if you could just give us a bit of an update, because I think it's wonderful that that's going out to a network of 250,000 readers.
Yep. Okay. So not my strong point, councillor, but I did. No, you're right. No, I did have this. It's probably in my pile of paper here. It is produced by Drive Inland and different companies. Let's Drive Queensland. We've only taken. It's very loud all of a sudden. We've only taken advertising in it, so we took a quarter of a page. The VSB publication, we took half a page. Has been quite chatty. It notes VIX and different things across, but it predominantly picks up the various drive routes: Pacific Coast Way, Great Inland Way, Overland Way, Great Inland Way. So it's sort of a theme. It's more a themed drive. Let's Drive Queensland. So it's more of a themed drive route publication. So it's one that what's on in queensland.com.au is its website. So happy to circulate it around. But for that exact one, I read the draft report. I thought, oh, can you get me a copy? Because I just didn't know this one either. Sorry, I'm not the font of all knowledge on it, but happy to chase down anything you need.
No, thank you. That's fine. Certainly, I recognise we're a member of Drive Inland, so it's great to see that South Bennett's represented in that tourism guide as well. I feel like at the moment in tourism, the South Bennett's really gaining momentum, so it's wonderful that everybody is trying to work together and that the lines of communication are open. So it's excellent outcomes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to flag how excited I was to see the enthusiasm visit South Bernard and the fact that I think that it's all going ahead in a positive way, and just looking forward to working with a great team there. And I just wanted a question with the touring guides. I know that Visit South Bennett said that they were putting out a touring guide, and also South Bennett today are putting out a touring guide. Just wondering, some thoughts, the CEO moving forward, if perhaps that, I guess, is it necessary to have two touring guides, or into the future, should we sort of maybe try and work with Visit South Bennett and South Bennett today to see if we could just maybe have one publication?
Good question, Councillor. Exhibit B. I've got a whole swag of exhibits that I brought today. So the South Bennett, well, the guide, this guide that was produced previously by last go around South Bennett Times, and it's been a partnership over, as you would probably recall, council through council staff. So it was a council publication for a period of time, and then a couple of years ago, this one was 2020, council moved out of the actual production of the guide, and our partners, which were then South Bennett Times, picked up the production of it. So we've probably moved right away from it as far as and just taking advertising. And it's a really good question because it actually comes to the crux of a range of different things from early on in the piece, and the regional tourism strategy, and I don't know if any of the councillors from when VSB picked up this, but be it brochures, be it guides, be it anything else, I think the crux for us going forward is getting some form of strategy or understanding as to this is a very busy space and there's going to be competing priorities that not everyone will be able to be pleased with all the time. And which ones do we advertise in? Which ones don't we advertise on? Which one are we partnering with two? Are we partnering with one? I would love to think, in just a personal opinion and not sanctioned by council nor any of the other organisations, that at some point there would be like a single guide. Now, what that looks like. We were questioned about, in a good way, with VSB about why we only took half a page with them. And point with Drive Queensland, we only took a quarter or an eighth of a page, I think a quarter of a page as far as advertising and that. We're yet to see their publication and what it looks like. We haven't seen a proof. And you will recall when this one came out, there was quite the discussion about council not being provided a proof, considering we were formally partnered with South Bennett Times in the day. So VSB is in its infancy, and I know we all wish them very well. So we've taken a conservative approach with advertising in the magazine this year. They've got a lot of other magazines, a lot of other advertising from what they've been saying. But yeah, it is, what's our strategy? Discover, and it folds into that whole bigger picture. What are we going to do with Discover? I've been operating under the understanding, and we really do need to clarify this in a document somewhere in case we get hit by the proverbial bus, that Discover as our brand will fall back totally to advertising council operated or owned assets, the dams, the museums, the visitor information centres. So, and this will be the great thing to discuss the brochures going forward. What are we going to do in this space, and what's our role in this space, and is it a role for industry-led? And it's not for today, but it's probably a really great space for industry to lead, and we enable or support. But anyway, yeah, so it's a really good question, and we're all on the same page as what does this look like? We're going to end up with 3. Come at the end of June last year, we had literally given away, the last financial year, pretty much our last boxes of these guides. So they're quite rare now as far as, so we've got a little bit of stock. We're going to have much more stock going forward as far as between the different publications that are coming out this year. And then, yeah, and it'll give us a bit of time to discuss it with our partners. What does this look like going forward? No, good question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Happy with the response, Councillor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, shall we go to the vote? Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 8.4, LGAQ Trade Investment Opportunities at 144. Mr. CEO.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Now, I was doing the report remotely, and that's why you've got a hard copy of the attachments. My apology, I hit the wrong button. Some days the training wheels are still on. I'm just getting to the report. It's literally an information update as far. Oh, the computer's gone to sleep as well. Here we are. Just LGAQ does a fair bit in this trade and investment space. They've got various committees going on. And it was just literally to give an update. LGAQ is our association. Certainly in speaking with the portfolio councillor, the training opportunities they offer was just to share that information and bring council to aware of the different areas that that they participate in.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did receive a phone call from Paul Cranch, who is the Economic Development Officer for LGAQ, who's strongly encouraged me to submit an interest in participating in some of these master classes. I have gone along to Trade and Investment Queensland events before, but they haven't necessarily been specific to local government. So it is my intention to actually register for some of these, and I guess I was just making council aware of it should any of my colleagues like to participate or be a part of it. I did get a lot out of the Trade and Investment Queensland discussions that I've had, and knowing that investment readiness is a key priority of councils moving forward, I thought this would be a great opportunity, great learning opportunity to really tap into those resources that LGAQ have. So by all means, I am intending on participating in some of these, and yeah, would certainly welcome any councillors' interest in supporting with that. I thought perhaps Councillor Henson, being that you've got the planning portfolio, it might be something that you're interested in, or yourself, Mr. Mayor, being the work that you do. So yeah, just sharing that with the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so we have the report there received for information. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker, thank you. Second, Councillor Duff. Speakers, other speakers? Anything further? No, just probably want to support Councillor Shoemaker in following up on that information, and also looking to tap into that. Seems to be a tremendously valuable opportunity for us as we look to grow the economy of our region. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to the vote on this one. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. 8.5, tender of licence area 21 at the Kingaroy Aerodrome at 1:45. Thank you, General Manager.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this is just advice to council. We've got an area out at the Kingaroy Aerodrome which is suitable to offer for public tender. So yeah, there's a space there that has been identified. It's been in. We are going out to do the master planning, but this has been identified previously, and in no way we can see would impact on any of the outcomes of the master planning. It is consistent with the other hangar spaces that are there, so it's just that opportunity. There is some interest in expanding out there, so yeah, it's really just confirming that we were going to release that parcel for tender.
Yeah, thank you, General Manager. So we have the recommendation that the committee recommend to council that area 21 at the aerodrome be offered for licence by way of tender. Do we have a mover? Councillor Shoemaker. Second, Councillor Duff. Speakers for or against? Councillor Shoemaker.
I just had a question just in relation to the current usage of that lot. Is it vacant, or is there something on it? I just wanted to understand that for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, no. So this is a vacant lot that would be offered for licence for someone that could put a hangar on it.
Okay, thank you, General Manager. If there's no further speakers, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously, sorry. Thank you all. Okay, 9.1, a notice of motion on the City Powers Partnership at 1:48. Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that South Bennett Regional Council become a member of the City's Power Partnership, which is a free program that gives local governments the tools, connections and momentum to capitalise on the global shift to a clean economy, and that a workshop be scheduled with City's Power Partnership to support council in identifying and adopting its 5 key action pledges. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. Do we have a second of such? Councillor Duff. Councillor Shoemaker, would you like to add further to the motion? Speak to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just think this is, I learned about this opportunity when I was at the Australian local government, sorry? Oh, sorry, so, no, you're right, sorry. I wouldn't have minded if you'd given me that advice. So that the committee recommends to council that council becomes, yep, no worries. So backtracking here, yes, I learned about this opportunity at the Australian Local Government National Assembly in Canberra. Had some wonderful conversations with the city's power partnership movement since. And really for us, I think being that we do have such limited resources, this is just a great opportunity to tap into what information may be available for other councils around Australia, and I guess learn from that and think about what kind of things we may actually be able to do or look to do. I know we've just had some very productive conversations in relation to the Queensland Climate Resilience Council's partnership that we've established, and I think in really understanding, you know, one of the great words that they used before was greenwashing. You know, we can say we want things to be a particular way, but unless we actually start thinking about what does that look like, really we'll get nowhere. So the idea of this arrangement is to really start talking about and unpacking what some of the other 100-member councils of this arrangement are doing in this space, and think about how here in the South Bennett we may be able to move toward achieving some of these outcomes. I'm mindful that we can't have it all, and that we shouldn't go you know, committing to things that we can't achieve, but I think we should set some targets and have a go and see what happens, and certainly work our way forward. If anything, we've seen some incredible conversations in this chamber with young people across our region who are starting to think about some of these things. We adopted a waste management policy today, which goes hand in hand with this, and I just think it'd be a great opportunity to get some outside advice and support in these matters, which, as we have discussed, are quite complex. So, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. And thank you for bringing this report to council. The pledges that they've indicated there as some of the examples certainly look very attractive, I would think, to our region. Develop supportive planning laws to encourage residents and industry to adopt renewable energy. Roll out energy efficient lighting across the municipality. Provide fast charging infrastructure at key locations for electrical vehicles. And so, just to name a few. So, yeah, some really interesting concepts in there. Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors wish to speak at this stage? Otherwise, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. So we're just now into the confidential section, but Mr. CEO, could I perhaps, in light of the late hour and the fact that these matters will require some significant discussion, now move that item 10.1 be tabled at the ordinary meeting of council in September? Can I do both in one? And sorry, 10.1 and 10.2 be tabled at the ordinary meeting of council, at the September ordinary meeting of council. Yep. Okay. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duff. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. I would like, just before we wrap up though, to put a couple of motions forward off the floor. Firstly, that a report be brought back to the November Standing Committee in relation to November, thank you, Linnell. In relation to climate risk assessment and the integration of such into council's governance framework. Okay, do we have a seconder for such? Thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. We've just had a wonderful presentation by the Queensland Climate Resilient Councils group, and very keen, I'm sure as colleagues are, to see that we start to formalise processes to move forward in terms of the integration of climate risk assessment, climate change impact into our future governance framework, Mr. CEO. So as such, I'd be recommending the motion to the committee. So if there's no further speakers, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. One second one, and that is that I'd like to move that we nominate Councillor Shoemaker to complete the Climate Resilience Leadership course as Council's official representative, if Councillor Shoemaker is prepared to consider doing so. Yeah. We nominate Councillor Shoemaker to complete on behalf of Council the Climate Resilient Leadership course. Yes, provided by the Queensland Climate Resilient Councils. Is that correct, Mr. CEO? They're the provider. Oh yes, committee recommends. Thank you, Lionel. So I'll now move that. Do we have a seconder for such? Councillor Duff? Yep, thank you. Seconder. So just to quickly speak to that, clearly in listening to the presentation we've had today, climate risk, climate change is going to impact on every element of our corporate plan, all aspects of life in council and the organisations, delivery of services to the community are going to be impacted by climate risk moving forward. And as such, I'd certainly like to see that we appoint a councillor to provide leadership in this space. And I believe Councillor Shoemaker has demonstrated a very good understanding and a very good investment in making sure that our council and also the region is moving forward to address climate risk, but also embrace opportunities that come with that in terms of new industries into the future. So that being the case, any other speakers? Councillor Shoemaker.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was probably going to register anyway, but it is a 3-day online course, so it's quite a hefty investment, but I do feel one that is worthwhile, and I would really appreciate if any other councillor would like to join me in this journey. You know, in the learnings and opportunities, I think it would be a great opportunity to partner and collaborate. I'm mindful Councillor Froloff is the waste management portfolio holder and may also share an interest in this, and it might be a valuable thing to work together, particularly when we start talking about opportunities for circular economy and these sorts of things. So yeah, I would love to be a part of this, but yeah, I'm very mindful that maybe my fellow colleague may also be interested in the course. So I think the more heads around the table that have that knowledge, I think we all should be doing the course if we could allow for it, but the more heads around the table sharing in these learnings and opportunities is really important. There's so much to learn, definitely.
I thank you, Councillor Shoemaker. And I imagine, Mr. CEO, we could extend the invitation. Councillor Shoemaker could extend the invitation to Councillor Froloff to join her in that process. So, yeah. Okay, Councillor Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to flag something, and this is part of the, I think I'm in the right standing committee to raise it. On page 145, when we had the tender licence, the Kingaroy Aerodrome with the
sorry, Councillor, are we still on the same item?
Yeah, no, I was just saying.
On my motion?
My motion is, oh, sorry, have we voted on yours?
Oh, no, we haven't voted on my motion
sorry.
yet. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were speaking for or against here. So it's been moved and seconded. So we'll go to the vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you all. Please proceed.
Sorry,
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, so on that page, we had the link to the corporate plan, financial and resource implications, communication and consultation. All of those have been listed as part of the report. And I just wanted to, whether it's a resolution of this council or whether it just can be adopted, but that in all of the reports that we get that, the link to the corporate plan, the communication and consultation and the legal implications, because I noticed that some of the reports don't have that, and I just, yeah.
So, councillors, so we've gone down a two-part format, particularly because now we're not just running the ordinary meeting with the standard. So we have a brief report format which drops them out, and that's a deliberate choice to drop those ones out because 9 times out of 10 they're not applicable, because it's a brief report. The rest of them is the long format. So where there's and particularly if it's an information report, it's not necessarily required. So there is a two-tier format for the form of the reporting now as to brief or long format. So short answer.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So where a matter is of warrants it as such, then that will be included in the long format.
It is a formatting decision. I mean, like there are reports. I mean, you utilise talk about paper. The moment you put all those headings in there, it's not a big deal either way. But there's been, particularly when we rolled over into the new standing committee format, you'll have noticed the brief report format versus the other. Councillors, we have a lot of requests for reports from councillors. So quite often, and yourself included, we don't have a lot of the background. So there isn't anything. So the brief report format is used to throw it up, and then the items explored and brought back. So yeah, so it is. I suppose it's a administrative decision as far as what format they go in. Certainly, anything with the substantive, like the policies and all those, you'll see they're much more detailed. Now, when they go back, if they've been fleshed out here and they go back into the ordinary agenda, do you need to repeat the same volume of information, or it's a brief report format saying they've been dealt with at the previous meeting? So that's short answer, long probably, but yeah, happy to have a offline discussion about it. But there needs, well, anyway, yeah, happy. Probably it's this afternoon but with the full council, happy to have an offline discussion or online discussion. Happy to go there.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. CEO. So, Councillor Duff, you're referring to page 145. Is that where we are? Sorry.
Yes, I was really delighted to see all of that filled in, because and just with the one we discussed, I know it went to a procedural motion with the brochures. There was no communication, what consultation had happened around that, and I just thought, oh well, I wonder why that was missing. So I can see now that you've made a conscious decision to on short reports you leave that out, and on the longer reports you put it in. But I just wanted to flag it because I just think it's very useful for the councillors to know that what the link is, what the financial implications are in each report.
Yep, and the brochure, I mean, the brochure one, I would love to get into it with you, because there's a lot of information in there that needs to be exchanged. It does have a financial application, and certainly we can expand it out. The other aspect, and I know the Mayor and I have spoken about it before, and if we are talking about this, the motions off the floor, quite often now significant resolutions are coming off the floor that have implication for resourcing with absolutely no background or research or history to them. So this is a much broader, yeah, happy. It's again, not arguing the point, but certainly if we're going to go long report format if we went long report format, is there any benefit in the full reporting format for all reports? And what does that have implications for some of the practices, particularly for the resolutions off the floor?
Mr. CEO, it may be that we have to consider that, fold that into a broader discussion in relation to our meeting processes, moving motions off the floor, for example, notices of motion, questions on notice. Perhaps it's appropriate that we start to visit that as a group. Would it, thinking Councillor Duff, would you be comfortable if we perhaps moved today that we would convene a workshop in relation to these issues to have them discussed?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you need to move it. We can resolve it in the minutes. Happy, again, it's certain, again, no disagreement. Happy to talk to anyone about the governance and these sorts of things. The standing committees, so duplication of effort and waste of resources. I'll be blunt. Standing committees carry no delegations, and so the short report is actually a really good for that conversational approach for a lot of the standing, particularly for the information reports. We've tried to move all the information reports out of the ordinary meeting because if the standing report process is, always happy to take any form of process. But I do have thoughts on of again wasting resources on duplication, particularly if it's an information report that doesn't require any resource implications. But yeah, no, we'll just note it, and I would love to chat about it. Can talk all day about meeting procedure and governance.
Yes, we know you love this area, Mr. CEO, and you're a tremendous asset in terms of your knowledge base. Could we just perhaps then record that we'll run a workshop in relation to the meeting and agenda and standing committee / ordinary council meeting processes? Let's keep it simple and put something along those lines, can we? And then we can look at how we do it. That discussion can evolve in the workshop as to the issues to be addressed. We've been running standing committees now for probably coming up 12 months, Mr. CEO, then shortly, so it might be a good time just to review how they're going and what councillors feel they'd like to see changed, tweaked perhaps around these issues. So we're happy to do that. Councillor Duff, you comfortable with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, very comfortable with that.
Yes, good. Thank you, councillor. Okay, so I'll now move that we close the meeting. I'll now move to close the meeting at 5:17 p.m. Thank you all. Have a lovely rest of day.